Okay, audience. This one thing that's gonna be a small theme for the latter half of the year on my part will be sort of closure, and not in a sense of picking like a direct sequel necessary to something we did in the past, but closure is in stuff that I was supposed to pick years ago, but for one reason or another I did it. Case in point, Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, specifically of course, the complete version. It was supposed to be picked 2 years ago because again we were doing the remake. So in order to explain a bit better what the fuck was going on in the ending, it might have helped. And to be fair, again I will mention more in detail at the end. Square is not pretending that this movie never existed, like with Spirits Within. Okay, to be fair, Spirits Within has been re-released, but I mean in terms of being referenced somewhere else.
What are you talking about, Tio? They were totally okay if it being referenced in Life is Strange.
That was just a name calling. I'm not talking about the protagonist or music being referenced or a scenario from that.
Honestly, sorry.
Again, I will get the positives immediately out of the way, just so it doesn't sound that I don't want to endlessly bash the movie without any merit. One, the action scenes are pretty good, and they were, to give them credit, they were the basis to stuff that happened in the future, like the Dissidia games. So I had to be thankful for them to actually put them on the ground to expand into something that helped the franchise on the long run. Two, I don't have any problem, because keeping this in mind, I don't have any problem with having this sequel to a turn-based RPG to showcase the character performing more action-based scenes and flying around like they have no gravity involved.
Well,
I don't really have a problem with that. Third, the plot in itself is fine. I don't have any problem with it on a core level, in terms of, what they need to showcase. No. Ironically, without any hint of snark or to give just a pro bone to the movie. I don't think the plot is technically bad. Compared to Spirits Within, this plot is perfectly serviceable and technically attached to its source material.
I will definitely say this. For as bad as this movie is, I'll still take it over Spirits Within, because Spirits Within is just boring. Oh my god, that movie!
That was my first exposure to Final Fantasy.
Shiroi, I am sorry.
First exposure? Oh my god!
So that explains why you asked Max to put that statement on Twitter on our Life is Strange run. I am so sorry, Shiroi. I am sorry.
Unfortunately, literally everything else attached to this bone is completely rotten. I'm not even like the presentation of the movie, while very decent CGI, especially for the time and especially for this complete version, is almost unbearable to watch. It makes Zack Snyder's Man of Steel look like a fucking clown fest in comparison. The music, while technically fine overall in a vacuum, and especially particularly the original pieces composed for this, are perfectly fine, actually. Very good.
Oh, I actually really like Nobuo Uematsu's score.
And the rock band that he was actually forming around the time.
Black Mages. Yep.
The arrangements from the original game, however, are something that, while liked by part of the fan base, I personally cannot stand for one reason or another. But again, we will see later. And the most egregious part, the characterization is also included on its own on a part. But what I'm talking about also, well, we'll elaborate more as the movie goes on, is also part of the presentation. But the character redesigns and the costumes. Now, again, I will elaborate as soon as the movie starts, but just for a premise, also just so it doesn't seem like I want to be completely mindless about it. I absolutely have no problem with the characters switching costume for a different product. One of my favorite protagonists, Ramza, changes costume like 3 times in total in his own game, so it's not really an issue for me with that. If I need, there's still, a sort of a canonicity to the characters, so switching a costume in itself is not a problem. But it would be actually how the characters look like. But before we start, why this movie was made in the first place?
Yes.
Especially considering the first time Square tried to do a movie was with Spirits Within, and that probably should have told them to never try again.
Yeah.
But lo and behold, here we are. Why? Again, Square with the PS2 era, we were starting to ramp up with the presentation, wanted to expand and exploit the maximum limit of the graphical fidelity that they could perform around the time with FMVs.
It was also a direct consequence of the. In fact, it wasn't this the. Yeah, it was the first bit of the compilation of Final Fantasy VII to be properly released, I think.
Now, I don't remember who was the first person that started this, if it was Kitase, Shinji Hashimoto, or Nomura. Either one of the three or a combination of them.
I actually looked it up. It was an executive at Square. I think it was Hashimoto who went to Nojima and actually said, okay, we have an idea for a project about how a Final Fantasy game being expanded upon, and apparently it wasn't even supposed to be 7 necessarily. It's just like, oh, do you have a Final Fantasy that you think would be cool to expand into movies and other games and other shit, sequels, prequels?
Which is interesting considering a couple of years before they had that the 2D anime OVA called Legend of the Crystals, which is supposed to be a sequel to Final Fantasy V.
Yeah. But supposedly Kitase picked 7 because, according to him, the ending of 7 allowed room for the story to be expanded upon.
Which is true. Like I said, it is ambiguous at the end of the day, but being ambiguous means that you can move on in any direction that you want. This started as a very short video, again, just to testing out, with a simple fight between Cloud and Sephiroth, a bit similar to that presentation of the GameCube capacity of Zelda with Link fighting Ganon that later would become Twilight Princess. However, it proved so much interesting for the test audience as well, that Square decided to just keep adding more and more onto it, adding a bit more characters to the point where it reached an entire movie status. And let me tell you, they had the balls to present this 2 years in a row at the Movie Festival of Venice. The first one as competing, nonetheless. They wanted this to win something.
So you're like very offended by this movie.
I'm sorry. Again,
no, don't apologize.
I have my reasons to hate this thing, but we'll see them just in a second. So just before we start, let me just conclude quickly this presentation. They built upon this in order to create an entire movie. And so this is kind of reflected into it because a lot of characters will take precedence over the others. But for all intents and purposes, this is a story that takes place 2 years after the fall of Meteor. As we see a new threat arise for Cloud and his friends, and we see who, if any, have survived also from the aftermath, and if there are new menaces about it. The first release of the movie was in 2004, as mentioned. However, audience, as also the title suggests, we're doing the complete version that was on in 2005. This is very important because this is not just a simple director's cut that adds a couple of scenes or anything. The entire movie received kind of a graphical overhaul. More details are added, more of the energy effects are improved, and yes, there are still added scenes, and some scenes are reworked entirely. I will mention only a couple of them that are more important, but needless to say, scattered throughout the entire movie are just micro improvements all over the place, and if anything, this is the definitive edition of the movie that you should be watching because it makes the original cut very, very poor in terms of aging, in terms of presentation, and also...
Let me actually just correct you on just one detail, too. Adventure Incomplete was actually released in North America in 2009, 4 years later, not 2005. So.
Yeah, basically, folks, what we're looking at is the best version of Advent Children, and trust me, it needs it.
Square
and
this is the best. Well, this is
very recently in 4K as well.
Yeah, this is the only version of the movie that Square Enix even releases anyway. So it's the 2005 version has been discontinued at this point, basically. So whatever.
Which is ironic because whereas the original Advent Children left a lot of audiences split, the complete version managed to split things even more, if you can believe it or not. Granted, I'm not going to go into the specifics of why people are split between the original version and the complete version, because trust me, there is just enough to talk about with Advent Children complete as it is. All you need to know is that some people prefer the pacing of the original, some people prefer how the complete version acts as a more complete story. Some people feel that the complete version is too long in comparison and whatnot. Some people wanted a midpoint in between. It's all over the place.
Alright, I guess we can finally start. So, start your copies right on the black screen, right before the narration. You should be seeing, a title either in Japanese or in English. So, Let's start in 3, 2, 1. Click.
Holy
This
cow!
was-
I cannot believe
this movie was basically a consequence of the compilation of Final Fantasy VII, which it was a big problem because Square was screwing up a lot of stuff with the Final Fantasy VII compilation. Trust me, this was more than just this movie. This was just one of the many things about Square doing a lot of wrong things back in the mid 2000s.
And mind you, this was kind of the status quo for almost an entire decade on a lot of things.
Yeah.
I will say this also, it was Square plus a mixture of some of their operatives here and there. I will say this though, me personally, I am all for a sequel to 7 because I'm one of those ones who always was kind of a bit disappointed by how the original 7 just left stuff on the
Yeah,
end.
we start
And
with
speaking
the
of
ending
which-
of the very last scene of the original. Red 13 and his children actually running
Well-
towards the ruins of
Well, keep in mind,
Meteor.
Webs, this is 2005
Hey,
CG
Red 13,
animation.
Enjoy seeing him while you can, by the way, because
Yeah,
he's
the-
barely
again-
in this movie.
Basically, Square actually made a point in saying that they could not show Red 13 for a lot because they mentioned they did not have the technology to animate properly Spur. And I'm like, why are you making an entire movie with the Final Fantasy
why is
7
he
cast
here,
if you
then?
cannot, properly showcase one member of it?
Mm-hmm.
Question: did we really start looking at the remake 2 years ago?
Yes.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Dev's coming for us all, Sheroy. It's coming for you too.
Yeah.
What does he okay? Yeah.
That is
Alright.
a question.
This narration, if I recall correctly, is for the complete edition because the normal edition starts with instead of a recap of the events of the original 7. In here, instead, we have this.
Mm-hmm.
We have two characters talking with each other, one in a wheelchair, and one of the new main character introduced in this movie.
Forget it. Are they actually named in story?
Yes.
Yes, they are. This also the tone of this movie also is very clear product of its time. The incredibly self-serious tone just screams
Yeah.
mid 2000s.
Not to mention, a lot of the action and the music clearly, showcase that Square still loved working for the Animatrix.
Which, funnily enough, they kind of brought this tone back with Strangers of Paradise. Albeit, I'd argue to better success for a multitude
Not necessarily
of
for the
reasons.
music, to be honest, Joe, but yes, there are the couple of moments with the Linkin Park songs, but when it comes to the proper score, surprising enough, it's not as, super edgy.
Okay, so we're having a flashback to a flashback.
Yes.
Right after the
Boah.
events of Meteor, the Turks have been to investigate the Northern Crater.
And here's Reno. Okay, while the English dub in this game is a mixed bag, I will say one thing: getting Quentin Flynn to voice Reno is a fantastic trip because he voices Axel in Kingdom Hearts. So yeah,
He also
this is
sounds very close to Reno and Axel, of course, the Japanese voice actor, which sadly passed away recently, Keiji Fujiwara.
That being said,
And by the way, yes, this dialogue also tells you that Sang is alive. And once again, the botched translation of the first game, completely fucked up in this case because in that game, Elena told accidentally that he was murdered at Temple of the Ancients, where he instead was just wounded and he did recover eventually.
to be fair, that's
yes, to be fair, okay, to be fair, we can chalk that up to she panicked and thought that he was dead, so that's not too big. That being said, we do already kind of get to one of the bouts that some people are split on here. Reno, well, actually, you know what? I'll probably get to Reno and Root a bit later, to be fair.
Yeah,
right now
it's
we're
not
just
like
letting them talk.
they're gonna be part of this movie anyway, so...
I actually don't mind Reno and Rune in this movie for the most part.
Okay. I don't mind them in this movie too much, but I absolutely do get people's issues with them.
All right, now
And
we start
honestly-
with that, with the recap of the first, the events of the first game.
Pretty much.
With a
yeah.
I actually pretty like this choir piece.
Yeah, this is
It's supposed to represent the ancients, basically.
Yeah, this I actually really like a lot Nobuo Uematsu's score for this movie.
Me too.
Yeah, like specifically the original tracks. Yeah, like Theo said, the remixes are a bit mixed bag here and there. I do like the new version of One Way in Danger that they had for this one, though. But
Spoilers, Pedro.
Sure.
Sure.
I mean,
By the way,
granted,
just to
I know it
mention-
is for like the one scene that everyone remembers from this movie, but still, just in case there happens
Also,
to be somebody doing
Just to
that.
mention, this narrator, which is a character that we'll see later in the game, was recast for the complete version because a couple of years had passed and the original voice actress that they had aged.
Mm-hmm. Again, for a 2005 animated film, yeah, the CGI again was is you have to understand. Yeah, this was for the time was top-notch CGI, like top tier. Like yes, obviously, like Dweb's reaction to Red 13 earlier would tell. Yeah, if you watch it today with the standards of like a CGI animation has evolved a lot since 2005. So yeah, obviously it's going to age. But again, you have to keep in mind the time that this movie was made.
Like, I will give this
By the
movie...
way, if I recall correctly,
Okay.
not coming. Oh, there we go. For this extended cut, they bother to remember Kate Seed because, yes, in the original version, Kate Seed doesn't show up in the group shot. And trust
They
me,
forget to add it.
that's just the beginning in how they handle Kate Seed in this movie.
Yeah.
And yes, Advent Children confirms that Yuffie and Vincent were canon. Although I guess to be fair, I
Imagine
think-
someone who played the game and didn't even know how to unlock them and then watched this movie.
yeah.
To be fair,
I think Dirge of
It's not their
Cerberus.
problem, to be honest. Yes, I know.
No, actually,
To be fair,
actually,
Dirge of Cerberus had already come out by this point as well.
Nope.
No.
The servers came later.
Dirge of Cerberus came later, but
By the time of the
2003
release of the complete version, yes, because the PS2 era had ended in 2009.
it's also no, definitely no. Well, the thing is, like the opening text says, this was like this reunion is for you. This is just meant specifically for the hardcore fans, specifically, even though that's very questionable. But yeah.
Also, rather small plot hole that goes in contrast against the Gears of Cerberus established that people should not be living really near Midgard because the core part of the Shinra building is radioactive, or at least they mention. But here people still live basically around it. I don't know if there's something conflicting without they scripted the events of the movie and the game.
I really do wonder. Like, that is one thing that's odd about the compilation. Don't get me wrong. The 7 compilation was a very interesting idea on paper. Of an entire franchise centered around a single Final Fantasy game. The problem is that a lot of the installments kind of conflicted with one another in the narrative. Like,
Yeah.
you'd think that they would have had, group meetings on what was literally going to be an extension of their biggest thing. Oh, hey, Kazuma, what are you doing here?
Also, but yeah, you also noticed how fucking desaturated this movie is. Like,
Remember, Tail,
I
mid
wasn't
2000s.
I wasn't joking in saying that Man of Steel looks like a clown fest in comparison. Like, Jesus Christ.
I don't know if I go that far, but
Superman's cape, I still remembers its vibe is some kind of red. We will see later what red is present in
This
this
is
movie.
really
but,
grey.
yeah, it is.
I'm definitely gonna have to agree with you. Even Man of Steel had more color than this, and okay, look, good graphics or not, this was again part of the issue that Square were having with Final Fantasy VII.
This is showcasing the fact that despite the times of peace, there's still something wrong. People getting very sick.
Yeah,
And
she's about to explain, actually.
Because Resident Evil.
Yeah, the
So
geostigma.
So I think now's a good time to mention the real big reason people are split on this movie.
Yeah, by the way, this is supposed to be Marlene.
Yeah, holy cow. But okay, here's the big reason people were, and still are split on this movie. This movie is quite possibly the biggest representation of the schism between, what Final Fantasy VII was actually about and what, at the time, modern devs thought Final Fantasy VII was about.
Yeah.
The reason that a lot of people thought, oh, Final Fantasy VII is about that moody kid and everyone's deep and dour? You have mainly this movie to thank for that.
Alright.
Well, I mean, I mean, to be fair, Cloud wasn't exactly the most chipper guy in the world in the original.
Not an excuse. Anyway, Tifa managed to open up a new Seven Heaven on her own, and I will have to give it out of the way. Her new costume is actually one of the better ones. Her default outfit was black and white to begin with, so the color balance in this case is much fine, so there's not too much of a problem with this.
Address your concern.
I never implied it was an excuse.
Anyway, to address what you said, Dwibs, yes, Cloud wasn't always the most chipper one, but he was not 100% down moody guy here. He was a guy who tried to act cool, but was actually kind of a dork inside.
Oh, here we go. Let's start with this.
Speaking of which...
First of all, very first thing, now they try to add a wolf imagery to Cloud out of fucking
because he's
nowhere.
a lone wolf.
Despite the fact that at no point in the previous game he had any kind of hint at the lone wolf imagery or even, but now it's all everywhere. His motorcycle is called Fenrir. He has that wolf badge on his.
Oh, hey, look, he's got a Motorola phone.
Okay, let me be fair. The clothing and the patch, the shoulder pad, the shirt and the gloves and everything, I like those actually. But god damn it, it's all fucking black.
Let me put it like this.
Remember, what are the first colors when you think classic image of Cloud? The blonde of his hair, the brown of his boots, and the purple of his uniform. This has no hints of that. Nothing.
Now, I will say
going through his edgy teen phase right now.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Okay. Now I will say this. On the one hand, it makes sense that Cloud would have a different outfit, since his more iconic outfit is technically a soldier outfit. Yeah. And given that by the end, he pretty much wanted nothing to do with soldier. He decides to go for something different.
Another thing, I don't mind the fact that the Buster Sword, got rusty over time. It happens, weapon and everything. What I'm not particularly fan of is the fact that they remodeled the hilt. But you will see better anyway, because now we're introducing the three villains. Yep, that's our leader of the Three Stooges here, Kadasha.
You are live on Channel 4, please do not swear.
Yeah,
the lanky one is Yazoo, while instead the bulky one is Lotz.
And fun fact, Yazoo is played by Dave Wittenberg, the guy who plays Dr. Sonda from Mighty Number 9.
Well, also Cat Guy.
The thing is, to follow up on one of Jova's earlier points, the reason, to take another mid-2000s product as a comparison, the reason people at the very least have fun with something like Shadow the Hedgehog or Stranger of Paradise because it's so over the top to the point where it's
self-aware to an extent.
Well, depends on I wouldn't say Stranger of Paradise is self-aware territory, to be honest with you, but again, like this, however, it has the a movie like this, on the other hand, has the worst traits of the mid-2000s media.
Yes. Cloud now has multiple swords.
No, they bothered to give Cloud a new weapon. Despite the fact of the immense arsenal that he had in the previous game. Like the Mithril Blade, the Hard Edge, the Ultimate Weapon, the Ragnarok. No, we have an entire new sword, which is called the Fusion Sword. It's basically a jigsaw puzzle of different swords that combines into a gigantic one with just a very simple local.
So, a Final Fantasy game, we get another impossible weapon that makes no sense. Okay.
Again, they could have easily just, giving one of the... Again, there's this overall ongoing factor that despite the initial claim, like also Pedro quoted again, this barely feels like it's trying to respect the people who actually cared about the original game, because they try to have so many different things and executing them so badly at that.
Here's an issue I have with this scene. I get it. We do need to have an action scene, and kudos for them on that. But my god, we barely just introduced Cloud, and then suddenly we get this big action scene with the main bads. I'm sorry, I don't feel like this is a good introduction.
That's because, Jova, the action scenes were made first, and they built a plot around them later. That's the problem.
Well, they should have built a better plot around them.
So these people can control these particular monsters.
No, that's the thing. Unlike Stranger of Paradise, this movie has all of the most boring and worst traits of the mid-2000s media and none of the fun stuff. It's constantly acting very self-serious, like Joe Ventero said, like it's very much like it's a Zack Snyder movie, and
it feels like one of those.
it has little to no humor. And while I like Tara said, the story on paper is not a bad idea necessarily. It's just that the execution is terrible because the script is terrible, which is weird because this was written by Kazuji Nojima, the writer of Final Fantasy VII. And Nojima is at the very least a good script writer. But this is definitely one of his worst scripts that I've seen from him.
Well, is Nomura the director of this film as well?
Yes.
Yeah, get these guys. Barrett, which you will not see much in this movie, by the way, now he's basically the president of a fucking oil company.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Are you fucking high?
No.
Do you even remember what Barrett's morality is supposed to be?
Yeah, that's flat out
an
stupid.
ecological terrorist group that was against, mining the earth way too much for its resources. And okay, granted,
Well,
maybe
he said we're against Marco, not oil.
Sure, let's go with that. This, by the way, is a new location just made for how to meet these people, including the Turks.
This scene also is the first demonstration that the English dub for this movie is not very good.
Okay,
that was funny.
The Turks use mostly comedy, and yes, it shows very
that's the interesting thing about this movie. The comedy usually never comes from Nojima's script. It usually comes from the visuals. Like it's always visual gags. But hey, Rude. Okay, Rude looks fine. Yeah.
Some people are a bit split on Reno and Rude, kind of becoming more comic relief in this story here. I'm not too bad on it, but I can get why.
That was also, remember, Jova, that was also a problem with the translation of the first game. They were supposed to be like this from the beginning, but the translation of the first game basically made them super serious. And yes, by the way, Rufus survived the first game. I can't believe it, but it just feels fanficky.
Yeah, it does. Like Teo said, the Reno and Wood are actually meant to be like this, like they are in this movie. It's just that the translation of the original... Again, this is why Final Fantasy... This is why if you want to play the original Final Fantasy VII, play the fan retranslation, because that original translation is just...
Or the new threats mod, that also includes a retranslation.
Yeah.
That said, regardless of it supposing to be like that, people had grown on the characterization of the characters as was given in the script that, the 7 we got had. And to be fair, the remake kind of reflects that as well. I mean, don't get me wrong. They do get some funny lines, but they are evidently not the comic relief in the remake, which does seem to suggest that Square took to heart the backlash people had about them being the comic relief in this movie.
All right. The English cast for this movie. Now, on one hand, they did stay consistent from this up until the Final Fantasy VII remake when they recast everybody.
Yep.
Because
except for Arif.
Yeah. That's a whole nother bout of rotten eggs.
Arif was in this game. Arif was in this and
Kingdom Hearts 2.
And Kingdom Hearts 2. He was.
And that's it. Yeah. Unfortunately, from what I understand, the English voice cast from this era weren't particularly considered good until they got recast, when everyone suddenly decided, oh no, they were good, why'd you recast them?
That is not how it went, Blibs. Actually, people were split on them from the get-go.
Yeah.
Some people liked them.
Remember, Steve Burton already voiced Cloud in the first Kingdom Hearts. This is strictly a problem of voice direction, because god damn, this cemented... this cemented, ironic enough, a stigma on Steve Burton being, as George Kocher put a long time ago, a quote-unquote, a stoned-up Quinton Flynn.
Because if you take a look at the Dissidia games, Steve Burton is good in those. It's just that I'll argue.
Yes and no, and the voice direction of the English voice cast of those games is bad in other places as well.
I guess, but
talking about interruption, you kept interrupting Kyle when he was trying to talk.
Yeah, and guess what, Shiroi? Arif in this movie, as well as Kingdom Hearts 2, is voiced by Eder from American Pie. So there's a fun fact there.
That's another
choice.
Yeah, that's another thing people were split on. The changing of Aerith's cast member for this one. A lot of people preferred Mandy Moore from Kingdom Hearts 1, and, well, not how... in contrast to Mandy Moore, the fan base never really warmed up to Aerith's new voice actress, even after she left after Kingdom Hearts 2, yeah.
But it seems that the Three Stooges were literally originated from an overcrater, attacked Tseng and Elena, and now are rampaging in the outskirts of Midgar, with Rufus wanting to extend a gesture of a goodwill, a hand of a gesture of goodwill towards Cloud and say, let's help each other.
Basically, those are the three guys who want to rebirth Sephiroth.
So the basic premise of this movie that we were just told to us while we, just to recap real quick. Apparently, according to Rufus, Sephiroth died, but his mind didn't die, whatever the fuck that means.
It's kind of like that. Remember, the final battle of 7 is still Cloud fighting in his own mind with Sephiroth trying to grasp it. But as mentioned, the physical body of Sephiroth is never touched, even in the climax. All that the party did was essentially steal his subconscious in some kind of way. But Rufus is saying that it still persists in some kind of manner.
I don't mind
if I may, the general sentiment I get from this movie is that of a bad live-action adaptation. The kind that feels like, you're constantly hoping that, hey, they'll actually be able to represent the game properly, but for some reason they don't.
Thanks, Reno.
Hey, he said
that's Reno.
This is why we went loud in the room.
All right. And this is actually isn't this the Piano Collections version of Tifa's theme? Now that I think about it.
Think so. A couple of themes are sort of reused or rearranged from some of the orchestral rearrangement that Nobuo Uematsu did for the live concerts that Square was having around this time.
Okay, I actually do want to mention something about this scene, because, see, here's the thing. Normally, I want to emphasize this, I actually really like Rachel Leigh Cook as Tifa. I actually do think her voice actually does fit Tifa's voice, because, like I said, I find the actress in the remake sound a bit too old for remember, Tifa's supposed to be 21 years old. I have no fucking clue, however, what the hell happened with this movie, because Rachel Leigh Cook sounds just as bored as everybody else, which is weird, because she's good in Kingdom Hearts 2, she's good in all the other entries.
Direction. That's what happened with everyone, pretty much.
Yeah, I know, but she was good in Kingdom Hearts 2, at least. I don't know.
That was direction for this.
Who the fuck was directed, though? Because Rachel Leigh Cook can act better than this.
I just have to wonder, why didn't Nomura let it get to this point, honestly? Like, he was the director of Kingdom Hearts 2, and that one maintained its voice acting better.
Well, here's the thing, Jova. The original the localizations for both Kingdom Hearts 2 and this movie were not handled by the Japanese developers. That was made separately at Square Enix America. I'm pretty confident Nomura didn't actually supervise the dub.
Also, in case you're wondering, yes, you want to have an entire movie where Barrett is essentially kind of a neglectful adoptive parent and Marlene gets to be handled around by Cloud and Tifa, just telling Tifa, there you go.
You know what?
Okay. Red 13's absence, I get, but why the hell did they sideshow Barrett out like that?
Yeah, that's
stupid too. It makes him look like a bad parent, and it's for no good reason. Just to have him do an out-of-character moment of owning an oil rig.
Yes,
the film is Robert Buchholz, who, funnily enough, was a voice director in the remake.
I guess he did learn from these last films.
I honestly don't understand, because I mean Quentin Flynn sounds fine as always. So I don't know what the hell happened with most.
A couple of people do stand out, like Greg Ellis, for example. But I guess Greg Ellis, because he had literally only a couple of lines to work with. but you do have a point. Some people like Quinton Flynn do sound fine, so I guess they were a bit smart enough to
I guess there is,
try to get around the voice direction.
I guess there is the thing that Quentin Flynn was already an anime voice actor before this movie, so he's probably used to working with bad directors. Bad voice directors, bad voice directors.
Yeah, by the way, as they just mentioned, Elena's no longer around.
Yeah.
Remember, both Aaron and Sang were attacking Norbert Crater and Rin and Ru don't know what happened to them.
Because the thing you notice about anime voice actors is that because there's a lot of bad anime dubs around, anime voice actors, as they gain experience, they learn to, work around the bad direction. A lot of anime voice actors really manage to, survive the bad voice direction because they're just that experienced and just that talented.
Now, to be fair, I do feel like part of the bad voice direction goes along with the bad characterization.
Definitely.
Characters.
Definitely.
This movie, which, again, I really do have to wonder just why. Okay, here's the thing.
Whoa.
In terms of... Oh, yeah, this stuff.
We're getting basically a sort of a backstory to this original character.
This is actually...
Denzel.
Yeah, this is actually kind of a remade version of one of the scenes from his standalone OVA, actually.
So here's the deal with this movie here. This movie sort of acted a bit like Floodgates. What do I mean? Well, okay. Up until this movie, the most out of character the Final Fantasy VII characters like Cloud, Aerith, and even Sephiroth had kind of been, was Kingdom Hearts. Which, you know what? To be fair, that was Kingdom Hearts. It was a different version of them. Fair game.
Mm-hmm.
So then someone decided, hey, guys, let's inject their characterization into the actual main timeline with Advent Children.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it is stuck so long until the remake. In fact, that was one of the reasons why people were begging for a remake.
A bit before that. Also, yes, there's a lot of Motorola shielding. They even had ads for this fucking cell phone, clan cell phone. But
Nokia, sorry.
Well, whatever model was it? It was an actual real-life model that they shield.
Yeah. That's definitely a Motorola.
But what I was saying... Right, I argue that the status quo like this ended around 2015 with the announcement of the arcade version of the CDNT, where we started seeing finally Cloud more in line with the characterization of the first game. Not sure why Sakurai felt the need to reference this with Sephiroth in Smash Bros. Ultimate, but that's a story for later, I guess.
Ironically enough, some people do consider that a better version all around when you get down to it. But
don't
we'll get to that
later.
That's
a collector's item.
One missed call.
Hello, Moto.
Yeah.
Just
much, Cloud.
But yeah, let me just quickly finish. Basically, there's a geostigma, aka some kind of disease that's taken over Midgar, and apparently, according to Rufus, it's Sephiroth's will contaminating everything. It's something that it's a direct consequence of what happened at the end of the game, basically.
Without Holy and the life stream being spent for repelling Meteor, it seems that this disease is having a bit of a free game.
So here's one issue with Cloud in this story. Cloud just kind of really went deep dark depression to the point where he's been ghosting Tifa for quite a long time. I get Cloud not being the guy to open up that much, but really? He shut everyone, even flipping Tifa out?
Okay, I don't remember don't worry, it's not really a spoiler. It's not really... there's also the fact that Cloud himself is also infected with the geostigma himself. So, I kinda can see the idea of not being super happy, lucky going around, because he has essentially a fixed, expiration date on his head, as far as people know.
For a second there, I thought this movie...
The movie's over, yes.
It's a consequence of the geostigma.
I thought the movie was decided it was going to be Saw.
Here's a fun fact, by the way. You know what Cloud and Steve are doing now? They have a delivery service.
They're running a delivery service.
Which, again, to be fair, gotta get a job now that,
There's also, however, the fact that the movie never states if they're a couple or not. We just live to coexist together. It's like that fucking Spider-Man story where they're never said that Peter and MJ had sex when they clearly had.
Friends with benefits. Okay.
I know, right? It's so bizarre that the only one time where the Final Fantasy series acknowledged that two characters canonically had sex, was with Cecil and Rosa. Like, of all people.
Which is honestly weird, because if anything, this movie is more or less the movie that, kind of lets Cloud know it's okay for him to get with Tifa.
Okay.
That's much
Yes,
later
Pedro?
down the
Can I
line.
talk about another one of the big, what is actually one of the biggest problems of the movie for me?
Do tell.
The villains. The villains and the Three Stooges, as I still like to call them. The villain, all the villains
saying be dead.
Yeah, we'll get back to that. Anyway, the point is, the three villains, all they really do is act super duper serious and evil and don't actually do anything. And the movie doesn't even try to give them any kind of interesting personalities or any kind of interesting motivations. They just want, exactly. They're evil and they want to take on everybody as revenge for killing Sephiroth and Mother and all that. They're basic. So who are they exactly? We'll find out later.
Right, yeah.
Also, someone was inhaling with an object in the score.
But guys, Yazoo totally just killed Sang and Elena off screen. Isn't that intimidating?
Yes, memes are the DNA of the soul. Also, this is Kadaj.
Yeah, Kadaj actually just explained something. The reason the geostigma is around...
Honestly, okay, I'll be honest. I keep getting Kadaj and Yazoo mixed up
has
so
longer
much
hair.
because
I don't blame you.
they look so similar overall.
I don't blame you.
Which is weird because they made one of the Three Stooges more bulky. Like, I don't know, maybe they could have made.
Yazoo is more lanky actually than Kadaj himself, and has longer hairdo.
Yeah, and now this is
it's easier to tell when they're right next to each other, but when they're in separate scenes, no.
What is that shot?
Yeah, now Kadaj is about to reveal to Rufus who exactly is he.
And the scene is shaking.
For some reason.
Shit.
I am Sephiroth.
Rufus is like, get me
so there you go.
Now.
So there you go. Kadaj is basically a proto-Sephiroth that wants Mother cells so he can self-awaken.
Okay. I should probably explain properly. Now that the revelation has come, these three guys are essentially the remnants of Sephiroth.
Yes.
They're supposed to be different parts of Sephiroth's being and whatnot. Now, mind you, that sounds like an interesting concept, but the movie does not explore that as much as it should.
No.
When it comes to Denzel, also his characterization also comes off by the fact that he was helped by Cloud and the others, and he's also in turn helping this girl with a Moogle plushie.
Mm-hmm.
This is also to be fair, it was Kingdom Hearts who started introducing this particular design for the Moogle, which I'm not super a fan of.
Alright, yeah, but like
No, sorry, go on, Pedro.
Like Kadaj, we can easily recap what this is. Kadaj, it was basically just explaining to Rufus that the reason the geostigma is a thing is because Mother is, after dying, Genova is also now part of the live stream. So basically, the live stream flooding Midgar at the end of the first game is what basically now everybody was infected with Genova cells, and that's where the geostigma comes from, basically.
Okay, we want a good voice actor performance and everything. This is the introduction of Rick Gomez as Zack for this flashback sequence, and yes,
my favorite Zack
is the best English voice for the character. I am so sorry for the guy that he got for remake, and he's supposed to voice the guy for the Crisis Core, remake. But I'm sorry, it doesn't have the same energy or type.
Wait, they're not keeping Rick Gomez in Crisis Core?
Remember, Pedro, we're using all the returning voice actors are all the ones from the remake, because apparently, again, even the design, the Buster Sword hilt also is redesigned because they want to be in tune with the designs of the
remake. I understand that, and I don't begrudge them for that, but I still prefer Rick Gomez as Zack.
Not to mention, sorry, go on, Joe, sorry.
Can I just say that the Buster Sword is sitting here rotting and rusted is kind of a good representation for what would become of the VII franchise.
I mean, it's supposed to represent Zack's grave, and I get it. It was literally his living legacy, and Cloud essentially abused it for a long time at the beginning of the game. So, and it became quickly an outdated sword. So, using it as a memento for Zack's grave, I don't mind that. It's just that stupid hilt, which they will also double down on for Crisis Core.
Let me put it like this. I think Cloud's character pretty much represents how I feel about this movie as a whole. It's a bunch of good ideas, but with really not good execution.
Yes.
Like, okay, Cloud being down in the dumps with you.
Cry?
No,
that's just...
Yeah, the other big problem with this movie is the reason the movie comes across as boring as it does is because, like Jova said, the ideas are not fleshed out, and the dialogue is so dry. Nojima is a better script writer than this.
That bit? Let's stumbled a bit around the flowers.
Yeah, he did.
That for later.
But like I said, it's weird. Nojima is capable of writing better dialogue than this, but the dialogue in this movie is so dry and devoid of any personality whatsoever.
Alright, despite the gizmo on his left arm, Lottie specialized also in fight, so we're about to have a monk duel.
Okay, I've got the...
you know what's funny?
I've got the subtitles on at the same time as the English audio is on, and while there are a bit of differences in the dialogue sometimes, the rest of it is pretty much word for word from the subtitles in this dub, so maybe that could be the issue.
Maybe.
Anyway, so yeah, right now what we're hearing is a remix of the battle tune, and yeah, I don't care for this remix.
Me neither.
It's way too dour.
It sounds very more like, not necessarily embarrassed, but more like uncertain.
Yeah.
I get it's supposed to represent the fact that Tifa is getting her ass kicked by this guy. Yeah, that's a sad thing. We try to make Tifa badass, but this fight is kind of pointless from the start, basically.
I mean, okay. To be fair,
she does win this fight at the end.
She gets her butt kicked.
Oh, there you go.
To her credit, it's not like she immediately gets her butt kicked. She still is holding her own relatively fine. And trust me, that's kind of amazing given how she literally just got smashed into some church pews here and there. Like, and don't get me wrong, the fight scene looks cool, but this music is not engaging. And you know what? I can get it. Sometimes there is something to be had in, vocal dissonance with, having a very extravagant fight scene with a relatively calm sounding.
I actually like this upcoming joke here.
Okay.
So that's their way of inserting the victory fanfare in.
I have a question.
Go on, Shiroi.
Why is this kid the only one who was able to get any non-black clothing in the entire universe?
I know, right?
I don't know. See other examples.
Remember, Shiroi, mid-2000s.
Did they just rip the version of the theme?
No, it's a new version converting into a chiptune.
Well, I mean, I hadn't finished the... I was going to say, did they just rip it from the piano collection or something?
Could be.
Okay, so I will say this though. Lutz, funnily enough, looks like Elvis if he was possessed by Sephiroth.
And yeah, he was just playing around and he just wins like that.
I mean, I'd argue he got her caught off guard, but regardless though. Like, here's the deal, like, Lutz actually does look different from the other two. Like, so I wonder, why couldn't they have diversified Yazoo
also
and
weapon
Kadaj
type.
better?
Yazoo uses a gun, while Kadaj has a wakizashi.
Again, visually they are very similar, and like maybe if they're next to each other, I can get that.
Also this. We got a glimpse of this earlier on, but this is also since where Cloud lives. Here is tested the entire material collection that they gathered from the first game. Surprisingly enough, Yuffie haven't stole any of it.
Why did you bring this with you?
And she just threw one right at him.
This was where Cloud lived. So, logically enough, Lottie's gonna steal the shit out of it. Please don't do anything to the poor child. Also, hi, Denzel.
Well, that happened. Okay, but yeah, back to what I was saying.
Transitions, what the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie is not exactly taped together well, but no, like I was saying before, Cloud being somewhat down in the dumps due to Geostigma, I can get. What I don't buy is that Cloud never, reached out to his friends maybe tried to look for a solution or whatnot.
There is a special feature on the DVD, at least of the regular cut, Jova, that is just a set of still images of landscapes, while a couple of phone calls that Cloud is having with his friends like Barrett and Yuffie are happening in the background. But I don't know if it's set before or after the events of this movie.
And even still, going by this movie, Cloud just shut himself off from everyone else. Like, keep in mind, he responded sooner to a call from flipping Rufus than from Tifa. That's kind of messed up when you think about it.
And I'd like to remind you, by the time of the end of the game, he had made a point after the events of Meteor that he was very grateful for everyone else in the party who stick for him and wanted to stick with him.
But what is this?
After asking everyone about the, finding the reason to
But
die.
what is this? All of these children are being recruited by someone. Oh!
And now I'm getting Yazoo. Now I'm getting flashback to City City Bang Bang.
So, Tio, curious, which is your favorite of the remnants?
Kadaj.
Well, Kadaj is the only one who has anything even remotely resembling a character.
And spoilers, so far he's the only one who has actually showed up in the CEO of Omnia. More on how he's characterized there later.
So, Sonny, isn't Yazoo meant to be like the lead one?
No, Kadaj. Kadaj is.
Oh, crap. Maybe I should have been checking in on you more often.
Yeah, basically.
God, Pedro, you were right. Rachel Cook doesn't sound
I know, which is baffling because she's great in the city stuff. She's great in World of Final Fantasy. I like that also really good in Kingdom Hearts too. She's good in every other thing she's been as Tifa. But what the hell happened here?
I'm going to chalk up her misperformance as them trying to make stuff be super dark and serious in this game. I mean, movie.
Jesus.
Are you fine, Shiro?
Slow down, Christ.
I'm gonna take this.
It could be worse, but it's not great.
Anyway, but no, I mean, honestly, this is really a problem I do have with this movie. Do not get me wrong, there are good moments. But the reason this reminds me of a failed live-action adaptation is because it feels like the same routes, like where you're waiting, hoping and praying that, now we'll get to the more familiar stuff from the game. But it feels like it's constantly playing keep away from you because, no, that original game is too silly. Here's something more serious and grounded. Need to remind you, this is also in the same scene where we literally see Tifa getting smashed into several church pews, thrown up against a wall, and then just shaking that off like it's a wall.
Basically, that's just the beginning of how insane the fights will be in this.
So, this movie's first and foremost problem is that it tries to take itself way too seriously, and without any of the cheese that at least something like Strangers of Paradise had the decency
Not
to
to
have.
mention, like I said, it seems that it's almost ashamed of some stuff that the original game had. Yeah.
That too. It's weird.
And again, trust me, it's not even over with this.
No.
Was there some recent change in management around the time?
The Verge Jova. Remember when the movie started?
Oh,
the Verge,
right.
just
No, this is.
If I recall correctly, we had Yoichi Wada still piloting some things in the background.
Not just that. It boils down to the people being out of touch with the original game, basically. That's what it boils down to.
But there are people who made the original game working on this. That's the thing.
Well, Joe, let's put it this way. After the compilation was finally over, everybody involved did some soul searching, and that's why we got better stuff in Dissidia and the remake, despite even that game had the finale. But for the most part, the remake got the characterizations right.
Personality, for stick alone, for the remake are these things that stick out in terms of being compared to this one. I totally see what you're saying.
Note to self.
By the way, yes, Yazoo is using this particular vehicle, this particular car, to transport these children. You will see later where they actually taking them from, and you will be asking exactly how did they got there with this vehicle. Trust me.
Yeah.
Why does it keep breaking?
No, you see it, Wibbs.
I think the best way to describe this movie is think of it like your crazy aunt or uncle. Now, said crazy aunt or uncle
I don't have to wait. it's the city of the ancients. So that's not really a problem, right? Except for the fact that if you forgot, separating Midgard from the city of the ancients, there's an entire portion of the sea that you need to come across. It's not a big stretch, but it is present. How did Kadaji and the others had a boat there? It's never said. Oh, and by the way,
cars can be amphibious.
Oh, and by the way, the movie is now teasing Kadaji and the others using the materials that Cloud and the others collected. This barely factors into the movie.
Yeah, and for whatever reason,
that
instead
would have
of
been a flipping cool thing to look into, this movie feels like such a constant tease. Like, you think they'll do something interesting, but then they barely, if anything, do with it. Mm-hmm.
This scene also demonstrates something that it's always baffled me since I first saw this in 2005. Actually, remember Holy, guys? In case you forgot, allow me to recap for those in the audience who may have forgotten. Holy was the legendary white spell, the strongest white magic in Final Fantasy that Aerith was used, of course, to protect Midgar at the end of Final Fantasy VII. It's basically white magic, white energy. Kind of like how the live stream is green energy, right? For whatever reason, Holy in this game is water. And I don't understand why. I guess they're trying to do a religious parallel, with the whole holy water thing or something.
Yeah, baptism, we'll see also another thing at the end. No, but there's also the thing... If what you say technically it is slightly true, Pedro, but remember, Holy did not work in the end. It required the boost of the live stream to actually repel properly.
True, but you get my point. It wasn't water. That's the basic point that I'm trying to make.
So yeah,
it was blue colored, not necessarily white magic. It was blue colored and a bit viscous.
I guess.
Who knows?
I actually want to point out something here in this particular scene because we're about to get the specific line where this is what I like to call a line of dialogue that translators hate. Listen to Cloud and Tifa's conversation and how it ends. You're probably wondering, what the hell is Tifa saying? In the original Japanese version, she says zuru, 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 zuru. What is that? It's a Japanese term that's used for, just move on, just get over yourself, or something like that along those lines. Unfortunately, how do you translate? How do you present that to an English audience? And the translators probably just threw the words up in the air and just went with dilly-dally, shilly-shally, even though it doesn't fit the mouth movement of zuru, zuru at all.
Also, dilly-dally means, waiting around, it's it doesn't even make sense as a translation.
The mere idea that the movie this world tried to have Tifa have a catchphrase eventually all the way back to where within is fucking ludicrous. I'm sorry.
I can imagine. Okay, lip syncing over anime in 2D is hard enough. 3D, ooh.
Okay, to give him credit, the lip syncing is the least of this movie's problems.
And if I understand correctly, they did improve as well whatever problem that might have happened for the complete version.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Karaji is literally having a sermon to convert these people, the titular Advent of the Children.
Yeah, hence Advent Children.
That's the title of the movie!
How am I supposed to concentrate on that when I've got all this splashing going on?
Yeah.
If you forgot, this is the lake where Aerith got drowned after being stabbed by Sephiroth.
So basically, Kadaj wants to...
Now Kadaj is pissing in it.
Come to think of it, you know what this means? Isn't Aerith's corpse technically at the bottom of that lake?
Technically, it will take
your piss shouldn't be black.
So basically...
This is darkness.
So maybe Kadaj has a very bad case of kidney stones, who knows?
And now, Shiroy, right, and now Sheree, if you've ever heard the meme people say about this movie being about children bathing in Aerith's pissed bathwater.
Basically.
I didn't know about the meme. The first time I've heard of this is just before we started.
Never mind that. Never mind that. I'm more concerned the fact that this scene it basically comes across as Kadash trying to get all these children to his evil cult or something.
The music was, by the way, a remix of Chosen by the Planet, you know, the theme of Sephiroth, the Young theme of Sephiroth, but it was reimagined as this, like, strong, hard bass theme for some reason, and I don't understand why.
Yes, drink my piss.
The true origin of Gamer Girl bathwater.
So,
yes.
That's disgusting.
Okay, now for the sake of argument, the kids were probably manipulated by the
Stigma.
Stigma.
Yep.
So yeah. That said, I won't blame people who had an issue with that scene because they could have showed maybe a scene of the Geostigma glowing on their skins to show that they are controlled. I mean, out of context. And in some cases, it just looks like the kids are really just going along with it because...
Cloud, are you okay?
Oh, hold on, now it's time for... Cloud is tripping balls again.
So here's my overall issue with Cloud. It's the issue I have with a lot of characters that get drastically changed after a time skip. The bout of how he came to this point is not shown well, and yeah, here we go. Yeah, I'm sorry, I really prefer Mandy more, but no, this movie really contributed to the idea of Aerith always being a pure soul.
This holy maiden stereotype.
Didn't Aerith have another actress after this one before?
Yes, one in Crazy's Core.
Yeah.
The original version.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you notice Aerith was having an original costume, noticed how much more colorful and vibrant was the moment we saw an original costume on screen.
I guess.
I know, right? Like,
and remember, Nomura still designed all of these other costumes, by the way.
Well, of course.
Okay. So. I will say this. I actually do like the fusion swords, as they are called. Like, I do like the different swords and whatnot, and I do like what they combine into. That said... I don't know. I honestly would have rather Cloud have still had his iconic Buster Sword with him. I get
Jesus Christ. It's trying too hard and it has no consistency with Cloud's arsenal from the original game.
Guys.
This whole thing feels like parody.
Hey guys. Yes, come on, Cloud, hit me. Come on, I want you to hit me. Hit me.
Well, I mean, the original version of this came out 3 years before.
Hey, look, it's a shorter version of Masamune.
Mm-hmm. Only that it's a double blade.
It's like,
You fell for the yelling to kill's name.
to throw a point at the remake as well, Brianna White is, in my opinion, the definitive English voice we've had for Aerith so far.
It's definitely a tie between her and Mandy Moore for me, but yeah, no, she's pretty good. You know, not for nothing, Cloud, maybe this problem could have been solved better if you went to one of your many friends, who, as we will later see in the movie, is very available and willing to help.
Not later, Jovai, just in about a second, because, okay, again, cool thing to do, they actually bothered to integrate the limit breaks into the combat move in some capacity, you just saw Blade Beam. Mm-hmm. Already, Tifa also had used some of her moves in their fight against Lodz, so at the very least, the movie did its own work in some fashion.
And to their credit, this fight scene is pretty awesome. Like, Cloud is literally going up against the free remnants of Sephiroth, and it is legitimately
trying
great
not to hit a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
Yes, that is important. I'm sorry, even when they're in the same scene, I cannot tell Yazoo from Kadaz. They look too similar. Yeah. Oh, but I think we're about to get it.
Yeah. So Cloud is about, if I recall correctly, it's about now. Well, as you can see, Cloud is still 1 against 3, and these people are very, yeah, there you go. Vincent shows up to the rescue because that red cape is unmistakable.
And it's in the water.
The dev made a point for Vincent to retain in universe his original clothing because, as they mentioned, he's kind of from an older time, so he doesn't really need to change outfit, contribute to the whole vampire mythos. And look at how much different and better the movie looks as soon as he shows up.
Yeah,
okay.
Not to mention
really
Steve Blum is such a perfect choice for Vincent.
They got Steve Blum as Vincent.
I cannot even imagine someone better to play Vincent.
Show a little enthusiasm, Cloud, for fuck's sakes.
Again, look at that. That's the
Congratulations, Shiroi. You just figured out the problem of this movie.
The gold, the red, and the black, that translates super well with this setting.
And again, sad, Shiroi, Vincent of all characters has more motivation than Cloud. And mind you, some idiot dev at Kingdom Hearts thought that, these two were way too similar in mindset, which is how we got started with the stupid moody Cloud stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's the reason Vincent wasn't in Kingdom Hearts 1 was because some dev apparently thought that Cloud and Vincent were too similar character-wise. Which, that's a load of bollocks. So they essentially gave Cloud Vincent's outfit and called it a day. Well, more technically his cloak and the gauntlet, but yeah.
And yes, Vincent was the one who actually bothered to rescue Sang and Elena and actually trying to heal them.
Mm-hmm.
And what's worse, someone has actually got a hold of a piece of a body of Genova, which is bad news.
And yeah, Steve Blum is and Steve Blum is the best actor in this English dub because, well, he's Steve freaking Blum, and this guy can't. I'm pretty confident he's incapable of bad acting.
Okay. I'll say this: he's the second best voice actor in this movie. There is one who's still above him. And I think you know who that is.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. I guess you can make an argument for that. Yeah, sure.
Hey, look, they let Marlene go. How nice of them.
Yes, Witty, but we need to cross the sea again.
I actually like this line here.
All right, this. He's a bit old-fashioned, Marlene.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a phone, but it got dropped.
It's a in-universe kind of thing. The devs actually did mention very specifically
here you go.
Just to have a joke.
And there you go. Now Marlene calls Cloud out on his bullshit.
That is a very good question.
You know, Marlene, that's a good point. You should probably tell that to your adoptive father. Just saying.
That too. Yeah.
I prefer to send my mail by carrier pigeon.
No, but no, seriously though, I really do mean it. A lot of these problems could literally have been solved if Cloud just got the gang back together because, hey, Cloud, wasn't it you and the gang who beat Sephiroth, so why not get the gang back together?
If anything, this should be the kind of sequel movie that should be about getting the gang back together. And while it eventually happens for the climax, it's not a case where Cloud instigates it.
Yes,
Shiri?
This movie would already be a lot more fun if Barrett was here.
I know.
Why isn't he here?
Why isn't Barrett telling me not to do drugs and tucking me in bed?
And seriously, Barrett was legit one of the most fun characters in the original.
Thank you.
Serious, funny, and all that stuff. And you know what? This is part of why I consider this akin to a frustrating live-action adaptation. Just like a frustrating live-action adaptation, this movie kind of forgets about characters, or arguably does something even worse, it remembers them, but gives them the barest of roles in a movie where they should have more of a role in it.
Barest, you say?
Barest, yeah.
I want to point this out.
Cloud is ripping balls again.
Crawling in my skin, these wounds they will not heal.
With this fucking catchphrase.
Again, okay. I want to.
My point is for either version, regardless of how they translated this or how original it was. I don't get it. Why we need to make people having a catchphrase.
It's a cultural thing too.
It's not, but that's the thing, Pedro. This thing is not even referenced or used again in any of the other products that involved Tifa after this. It was just an experiment.
So, let me get this straight. Cloud breaking out of his stupor, all that was needed was for Vincent to say, Cloud, think about it real quick. You know what, you're right. Okay, let's go.
Death of a phone in 3 acts.
Motorola, the only phone that is full.
There's so much and focus on this phone.
Wait, guys.
Screw Aerith death. The death of the phone is the
Sure.
most emotional death of the series.
No, guys. That phone's going to fall into Aerith's
Guys.
and then its energy is going to bring her back to life.
Dibs, don't you?
Right.
Dibs, don't you see? The phone is the key to all this because it's the funnier character than anyone we have before.
And yes, not just from Tifa. Cal didn't listen to the calls from anyone else. Like even Yuffie bothered to talk to him.
That was a George Lucas reference, by the way.
Pick up your damn phone, Cloud.
And in case, voiced by Christy Carlson Romano, who's also the voice of Kim Possible.
Oh, nice. Well, you know, it kind of fits.
Although, from what I understand, this is like one of the only times she voiced Yuffie, because afterwards they recast her as Mae Whitman.
Wait, so she went from Kim Possible to Katara.
Well, that's not surprising at all.
We're about to start with, but believe it or not, the almost the entire second half of the movie is an entire climax.
Basically.
Oh.
Man, we're walking here. Talk to the hand.
In fact, one of the things that I will at the very least say about this movie, like I said, in comparison to, because this movie, for as bad as it is at the very least an interesting project to dissect. To dissect. No, I mean, like, its badness is interesting to dissect, because, you know, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that gets brought up. There's a lot of very bizarre things, like you've been saying, Teo. Whereas with Spirits Within, I cannot even watch that movie without falling asleep, because that movie is just...
Even as a movie, even removing the Final Fantasy from its title, as a story in its own, there are much better sci-fi products.
I don't care, but Teo, I don't care what you say. That's one of the best sci-fi films ever made.
Spirits Within is the perfect storm of terrible bouts in a story here. You've got the idiotic plot, you've got the villain so inept that we don't even get a cool climactic battle with him. He literally just does himself in one of the most dumbest ways possible. The characters aren't interesting. It ended up being a big flop of both hype, and mind you, the very concept that it was trying to coin, that being CGI actors, fell on its face.
And the other thing, Jova. Yeah, go on.
If you forgot, Reno, at least Reno was always had a reputation in the original game for winning one of the most asshole kind of fights you had to fight, especially his first one because of his stupid pyramid attack. In here he's just good with the baton, but never uses one of these special attacks like the fireball shot or the actual pyramid, which would have been very useful against these two guys. So as you can imagine, because these two are comic relief, we're about to be severely beaten up.
Yeah, again, this is part of the issue of making them comic relief. Like, you want to have them be comic relief? Fine. Have them be funny. The problem is that they take them to the bout of, being kind of just jokes. And no. Reno maybe, but Rude, no. Just no. Thank God the remake made up for that.
Also, Jovi, I think the villain's era bad. Wait till you see My Hero Academia, the third movie.
What happened there?
Well,
without spoiling.
The main villain's lame, and the henchmen are some of the worst I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah. And the thing,
Marlene, please explain the plot to us like we're dumb.
Exactly. And the thing is, Jova, like we've said before, at the very least, this movie has good action sequences. Spirits Within can't even claim that. Spirits Within, even when it does have something even resembling an action sequence, it's boring as... Which, again...
This is why you need to... If you want to find anything potentially positive, you need to excise the Final Fantasy from the title, because it almost has nothing to do with the...
but even... Hell, too. Even if you take out the Final Fantasy title, there's literally not... there's nothing that I can say that I can definitely... The one thing I like about that movie is that bit with James Woods as the villain where he goes,
Hey guys, Marlene quoted Barrett. That's totally the same as having Barrett here, right?
Okay. To be a bit more constructive. I can understand the idea of having Marlene have a more of a prominent role, because remember, Marlene was barely in the had anything to do in the original game. She was just, in 3-4 scenes total. So I can understand the thought of wanting to expand upon her character and have her have a more active role.
And yes, we're now where the movie opened up at.
Kadaji is about to do something very interesting. If you forgot, if you have just reminded you, but he's snuggled one particular material from the bunch. A summon material, to be exact, even though it's not colored orange like it's supposed to. So as you can imagine, Kadaji is about to perform a summon. So you might be interested to see, cool, what kind of cool thing is gonna summon? Maybe Ifrit, Shiva, the Knights of the Round. Maybe you want to be.
I can already hear it.
The people that work their asses out to find it.
Yeah, and this is the problem that I had with the villains. All Kadaj does in this movie is whine.
Wine and wine.
I was gonna say, are you sure? Are you sure Cloud is the most mopey character in this movie?
Yes.
In a passive way. Well, Kadaji is just whiny.
Yeah, okay, Dwibs, there's a difference between whiny and moody.
Because at least Cloud does stuff. This guy just goes on and goes. Wow.
Okay, Cloud does stuff in the sense that the plot demands it of him, but you never really feel like he's in on it. Even at the bout where he's supposed to be motivated, he still sounds down in the dumps.
The plot of this movie basically boils down to this: Cloud is feeling mopey. The other Vincent tells him, Vincent and Marlene tell him, stop being mopey, and he's like, okay. And there you go. There's your narrative arc.
And again, the thing is, up until the climax, he still acts mopey. I know the script is suggesting that he's better, maybe, but it
we
seems
do not
like
know because he shows up very barely in the original Cerberus, which I'm kind of partially okay with because it's not supposed to be his game, so him being relegated to a minor role works well enough for me.
Oh no, that was about Vincent.
We could have seen more of him because, as far as things are right now, Dirge of Cerberus safely.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
So, what creature among the many creative, the pantheon of summons that Kadaji is gonna summon?
Observe.
And I really love this track,
Divinity.
By the way. Yeah, Divinity. Divinity is awesome. I love this track.
Probably my favorite of the entire movie when it comes to the original ones, I guess.
He summons a tornado.
So it's Typhon then, because he was wind element and everything.
Nope. Ladies and gentlemen.
Apparently this thing is supposed to be a complete new form of Bahamut called Bahamut Sin.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I watched the movie, I thought, is that a weapon? The old new form of the ultimate weapon instead? Because, sorry, this thing resembles barely any of the forms of Bahamut. Anyway, it's supposed to be fused with the monster design of the monsters that Karaj, Lord and Jesus summon. But I'm sorry, yet another element that spits in the things that the fans of the original games actually loved. I don't understand. Jesus.
Oh.
That was a bit more
okay.
Than I needed to be.
Coming up is a line from Denzel that I actually want to listen to see if that got changed for the English dub of the complete edition, because I know the original, I know the subs of the complete edition, but I don't know the dub respects that or not. Oh, poor Rude.
I like that touch where Rude was about to punch Reno for it.
You know, okay, I have a bit of a theory. I feel like Bahamut's design here is kind of a prototype for the Summons and 13's designs when you think about it. You know, the whole machine look and everything.
I do like that bit where Reno, despite running, he's still trying to protect that little kid again, showing how...
It starts with this game and gets expanded later on, with the Turks being more concerned about actually helping the people, and the fact that they were much more, than what in the original game had.
Right.
And it does fit with Rufus's speech from earlier and how he wants to make sure Shinra actually does good from this point on. So
this will actually also get slightly expanded in the original Cerberus as well.
Yeah, in fact, that's another... Seriously. Sorry, go on.
Seriously, I have to wonder, what were they thinking with this design of Bahamut? Again, it feels like a prototype for the Summons in 13. Definitely a more focus on machine look, but it clashes with how he looked in 7, so I don't know what the hell's
even
going
any
on.
of the other forms, that he had, the Neo and
Zero.
And Zero.
In fact, that's another mid-2000s thing that was also, for as flawed as it was, I do prefer Dirge of Cerberus over this.
That being said, here's another issue I have with it. That scene just amounted to fan service. Bahamut came,
and by the way,
gone, so
this is
let's go back
supposed to be
fighting.
the remix of Those Who Fight Further, the boss theme of the game, and it's barely recognizable.
Yeah.
Yeah, like... it is so frustrating. Like, even when this game is supposed to be trying to throw a bone to the original 7, it feels so lame.
Man, Reno is quite fast at climbing.
So we got Rude versus Virgil, and yeah, I know that's not his real name, but these characters are so bland and forgettable. I'm just going to call him that.
Yep.
I just want to be with my mom.
Okay. Oh my God! You know what this is? This is the opposite of a stupid baby talks to Mother M.
Basically.
Instead of baby, it's mother.
Ow.
It's a good thing Rude...
Who survives this?
Well, Rude as well, that's the thing. Rude is just that badass too.
I mean...
Oh, for fuck's sake.
And he broke his glasses again.
This is something that they did
reference.
Yes, Bears.
Yes. Okay, I will admit...
For the record, that's a line also from the original Japanese script. They had to kept it lots being these kind of a man child.
I do like that line. I do like that line from Reno. Okay, I'm sorry. Your mother's cool. What the hell am I saying? Again, Quentin Flynn is really good in this movie.
Yeah, I gotta say, I don't know, guys. This movie is, yeah, it's not very good, but it's actually, mostly unintentionally so, but it's actually kind of funny.
It's more frustrating than anything to me, Dweebs. Like you said, it's still a better movie than Space with it.
Oh, trust me, Dweebs. Trust me, Dweebs. If you ever have any suffering from insomnia, perfect cure. Put on Spirits Within. You will be asleep in 10 minutes.
Okay, recall what I said at the start, Dweebs. This movie does have good points, yes. Unfortunately, as Theo mentioned...
Oh, okay, well, I think it's about to get to the line. Go on, Joe, I'll just listen to it.
As Theo mentioned, this is one of the most frustrating experiences you can get with a film. This film constantly does have chances.
Okay.
Oh my God, the kid swore.
That's the thing. In the original Japanese script, it just says Yamero, which means stop it. And for the sub of my country, it says instead, you're finished. So which is it, movie?
Also, hey!
Barrett. Okay, positive, cool thing that the new hand can actually morph into the weapon. Bad thing, literally everything about this costume. What the fuck is that jacket? Also, Kate Sif does nothing in this movie, just writes Red 13!
So look, he's writing Redford.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I
Reeve,
don't care how
doing?
many people in the fandom hated apparently his character for the original game. It's not an excuse to completely remove his fighting capabilities. Fuck off, movie.
Okay, so here's my question. One, in the context of this being Reeve controlling Kate Sif, why on earth is he only controlling Kate Sif this way? Shouldn't Kate Sif have a giant Mooglebot? And two, if Kate Sif is his own character, that even begs more questions as to why they're like this. Also, hey, Yuffie.
Also, I will say another thing. Yuffie's costume and design is fine, but again, it's all that darkness. The positive thing about it, she remembers to button up her pants. Cool, I guess.
Okay,
I do at the very least
like this.
Go on.
The problems I have with a lot of the costumes
Sid.
in this game, except for Sid,
Sid is actually one of the better ones, but they bothered to remove his jacket, which was probably one of the cooler parts of that.
And
basically, Tio, what they did was they had Sid wear his outfit from Kingdom Hearts.
And as mentioned by many people, he's probably one of the easiest cosplays to ever make.
Pretty much, but...
I actually would like to point out 3 good things that we just saw. Okay, 1. I like that line from Vincent. That was a nice payoff to the earlier scene. Where can I buy a phone? 2nd, Chris Edgerly as Sid is actually really good, and his voice really fits the character. This specific scene, of course. So yeah, the Chris Edgerly is another good point that I could like to mention when it comes to this movie.
Story, by all means, shoehorn in backstory on Denzel out of nowhere.
And I also did like that little moment between Yuffie and Tifa, where like, okay, who took my material? The bad guys, naturally.
In case you were wondering, like I mentioned in the past, Barrett is voiced by Bo Billingsley, who is mostly notorious for voicing. I forgot the name. One of the recurring characters in Cowboy Bebop, so it's kind of fitting for the role.
I think it is.
While Skate City is voiced by Greg Ellis, which bothered to give the character a Scottish accent to reflect the Kansai accent from Japan. It's not that noticeable in this game because, of course, he has such a small line.
Guys, look, Cloud remembers. It's just like that time Aerith died, so now he has a chance to save Tifa.
Peter saves people from falling off bridges because reminding him of getting Stacy all over again.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
It really is.
I laugh every time I get to this scene in this movie because that is legit a Spider-Man saving the woman falling from a bridge moment.
I will say this, we finally, the Kate Sif aside, sadly, finally we have the gang back together which can fight at least for a single goal against this fucking thing.
So you would think this means that they'll get their fair amount of screen time since we have a bit of movie left.
Yes and no. This is still the Cloud show when you really get down to it, but they try to do the bare minimum at the very least.
That being said, since the gang is here, when it comes to those whose outfits are black, this is similar to the issue I had with the costumes in Final Fantasy XV. And I get it. The point of that game was to be realism meets fantasy and whatnot, but I just never really dug how dull those outfits were for the most part.
I don't know, I like the Japanese rock band thing they got going on.
Oh, no, sure.
Yes, Roy, I also love NSYNC.
The thing also for these, that those were created specifically for an entire new game and everything. These are supposed to be the next logical step for costumes that were great on their own source material. Unbuttoned pants aside for Yuffie, So this is a genuine step down on almost all levels, and it just feels so sad.
This is pretty much the problem I have with 15, but on steroids, because, like you said, at least 15, that was the own original character's designs, hit or miss as they were. This is changing character designs for the worse. Oh, but this...
Die, Fire Hydrant, die!
Yep! That beast was just fended off by a fire hydrant. Okay.
Again, remember when I said that the music tried to be very in love with the Matrix? Yeah. And again, Nobuo Uematsu and the Black Mages are a good band on their own, not really a problem with that, but a lot of these remixes with this particular style of heavy rock metal just fit the tone on a superficial level, and when you compare to the original source material, they pale, especially because the Black Mages actually did a very great remix of those who fight further.
See, now, this is what the movie should have been throughout, though. The gang from the original 7 going on a venture to stop the return of Sephiroth. It should have been simple, but they overcomplicated it with the hokey plot, and I guess that's needing to waste all that time on Cloud being mopey and whatnot. And what we get is not as great as it could have been. Which is just, it just adds on to the frustration when it is so obvious to see how it could have been better. And yes, I know that they started with the fight scenes or whatnot, but that's no excuse. Make a good story around it if you wanted to extend it into a movie that people were going to have to shell out more money for.
Also, a couple of things. The complete edition bothers to actually showcase actual battle damage towards Bounty to make a point where the team is actually doing damage before Cloud gets to have his solo moment. So at the very least, I'm grateful to that. But I have to question, okay, this is definitely a minor nitpick and everything, but they bother to replicate, to make Barrett use his big shot, limit break, but instead of orange energy ball, it was a green one for some reason.
Maybe he just got that changed in the shop or something.
Sure.
Alright, here we go.
Yeah, now it's time to actually have Cloud having, like I said, his solo moment. With a reprisal of Divinity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is my... Oh, sorry. This is my movie, bitch. Sorry, I have to... I was going to do it more top, and then I
This
remember,
is my movie, bitch.
This is Steve Burton, Cloud. I got to do it like that.
Well, and here we go. Yes, when he combines all of his fusion swords together, he gets something that resembles the Buster Sword.
But it's still very, again, too much of a tryhard in terms of design. And again, not really in tune with any of the previous arsenal the Cloud had.
They need to make the new design so people will buy the figures.
It's probably also that merchandising. Probably that.
Yep.
And also so we can make a variant later.
Oh, hey, Kadaj, you're still here.
All on this line. Oh, in the Japanese tag, in Japanese script, he says, "What should we summon next?" But yeah, plot twist. Sang and Elan did manage to get the head of Genova to Rufus.
Yeah,
I do like this line.
Yeah, a good son should have known.
Some son you are.
Yeah, I do like that Rufus purposely has been waiting for the right moment just to troll Kadaj big time.
And now we get this. Cloud needs to be launched up and up from all of his team members in order to actually reach Bahamut before he casts Mega Flare.
They're trying to sell the whole power of friendship. Yeah, power of friendship thing, basically.
I'm Southern, remember that.
Well, that makes sense with this set, to be fair.
Also, by the way, Red 13 had not a single line of dialogue for now. He gets like one line at the very end.
Now let's power it up. God, it sure would suck if I'm just short of it.
Yeah, I can make it. Oh, shit.
And by the way, another thing, I get it that he did not, she could not have the time to prepare for the fight with Lodz, but for this one, Tifa could not have any other weapons, she just needed to fight on bare-fisted again.
Well, to be fair...
I mean, she can lift up something 20 times her size.
No, I know that, but it's just another thing of the game not wanting to care much about consistency and iconography with designs from the original game.
God, in hindsight, this wasn't the best idea.
Yeah, Cloud
what
gets
the hell?
a Mega Flare to the face and gets to trip balls again.
Oh, look at that. And now Aerith also froze him up as well.
The final boots.
Of course.
And how Cloud does execute Bahamut. Apparently this is supposed to be Climazard. Fine. It's not like super accurate, but it's fine to take it. Again, there are worse stuff to complain about this.
There you go.
And the tower is going to collapse and kill us all.
But yeah,
Clouds.
But yeah, like I said, I actually really dig that. Rufus has been purposely holding the box of Genova's head right there just so he could... Dude, just to see your face, totally worth it.
But, hold on, guys. The best is yet to come.
Wrong franchise, Jova.
This was when Rufus, remember, had only just his own simple shotgun, so he did not any particular special capabilities. It was a remake who actually revamped him to be more fucked up speed when it came to his boss fight.
Don't worry, I'll handle it just like I handle most things in this movie.
Hey, what about me, the ninja?
Actually, the one that...
Sorry, Yuffie, you're not the ninja with the motorcycle, now are you? Who gets it first?
Kadash still gets it, unfortunately.
Oh, hey, Sang and Elena! Now they're here!
And by the way, the scene of them showing up is kind of a complete exclusive for this version of the game, probably, because in the original, there's just a blink and you miss moment of them helping.
I swear, like, I get that there was a plan, but the way the movie goes about, you would think that the writers were flipping back and forth on whether or not they actually wanted to kill Singer or Elena, until they settled, oh, all right, we'll let them live.
If you forgot, like I mentioned, one of the original draft was to be an OVA of 40 minutes, starring only Tifa, Cloud, Sephiroth, and Kadaj. So that explains also a lot on how a lot of the characters get only minimal screen time.
And I also do enjoy this chase sequence as well. That's we're gonna get.
Again, one thing that I would not, that I'm not complaining about, is to give Cloud a motorcycle, because to be fair, the motorcycle chase in the original game is one of the most iconic, set pieces, and the cool thing to cap off the events of Midgar. So capitalizing on that makes way too much sense, if you ask me.
Sure.
Curious, how do you like the design of Fenrir?
It's alright. And sure, maybe a bit also still try hard, but not as much as, say, the Fusion Sword or anything, so I'm perfectly okay with this.
Wow, this just in. Actually bucketing up and dealing with my problems has helped me fight better. Maybe I shouldn't have been moody all this time.
I never actually tried, because now it's actually the server shut down. I never tried the mobile game that Square released for a while called G-Bike, which is based on the motorcycle segment, but I've been told it was pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, I don't necessarily have an issue with the characters not exactly being, not exactly being as chipper as they were the first time round, because, well, I mean,
obviously.
a lot of their towns got either destroyed or embarrassed in Yuki's case. One of their party members died. They just avoided the entire planet being destroyed by a giant rock. But I think, okay. I don't think I've only ever really seen one.
Holy shit, Roots packing.
Really bad example of Cloud and his mopiness. I don't think it stinks up the whole movie, but it didn't help.
It really is a problem, and that's the thing. The problem is that with this movie, Square ran with that as Cloud's characterization. Even in the Dissidia games, it got so flippin' old. Also, yeah, Root just took a motorcycle to the face.
That's gonna hurt.
Oh shit!
Really?
Hero technology, everyone.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, I mean,
Why would we want to rebuild that again?
Does Shiver even exist at this point?
No,
Yes,
remember,
well,
it
sort
got
of
dismantled with
fragments
the
of it.
death of Scarlet and Heidegger. Reeve was just put in jail and he got out of there off screen, basically.
Basically, just fragments of it are left, but the Shinra as a whole, more or less defunct.
So we're going to call it then just Shin or Ra?
Okay, no, it's reintroduced kind of sort of as a new organization, led by Reeve in Dirge Cerberus, basically.
Shin Rat. See, we're totally not Shin, but we added an extra letter.
It's similar to how Resident Evil now is running with the idea that there's a new umbrella that's Happy and Ankidori.
Yes, Blue Umbrella, the good guys.
I don't know who voices Helena, but that line delivery was terrible.
Yeah.
I get the feeling that may have just been the janitor getting a paycheck for that.
I'm gonna check.
Hey, it was so nice of Midgard to develop tunnels that can be literally circled around like that. Somebody was a fan of Sonic 2 Corkscrew.
If I remember correctly, during the chase sequence with Yagrosh, not Yagrosh, the motorcycle, I want to find my motorcycle guy in the remake, the tunnels do resemble this design.
What? He literally chucked an entire motorcycle at me. I think these guys are problems.
I just like this bit here.
Back to the bush.
Okay.
There you go.
Never heard of her.
She
Oh
plays
yeah,
a
I still got it.
Yeah, I will.
She plays a character named Alyssa in Rugrats.
Ah, okay. No. I again, like I said before, I will give him this. Nomura can direct really cool action sequences. So.
Also,
again, remember, these serve the base for stuff like the foundation of the gameplay of Dissidia, and Yes, there is a lot of suspension of disbelief to be put there with something like as bulky and slow as X that completely juggling perpetually in the air and everything. But that's enough suspension of disbelief for you to go, and this is running on the same logic.
Okay, I will say this. I do dig the functionality that the fusion swords do give Cloud extra swords to use, which can come in handy.
There's also the fact, Jova, that Cloud being quote-unquote trained or received at least the memory of a first-class soldier, was only proficient in double wielding.
Oh, hold on.
Sorry, two-hand wielding. All right, this.
I really like this scene.
You came out of a 30s cartoon.
Okay, I'll give him that. This scene is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's what makes this movie frustrating. It has
you can see the
lot
potential.
Yeah, and those are arguably some of the most frustrating movies. The ones where, even though they're technically bad, you can see very much how they could have been grand.
That scene felt like the end to a cheesy action movie.
Which is fine by me. And yes, Reno and Root are the ones that take down Yuzu and what's the other guy's name?
Yuzu. Cloud has to deal with Kadaj on his own.
So who was killed? The long-haired guy.
Yazu.
Yeah, basically. And the only one we have left is Whiny.
Oh, goody. We're about to get to the scene.
Well, first we need to get Cloud actually fighting against Kadaj.
Yeah, Kadaj actually tries fighting him first before he does it all, actually.
This is also the reason why he probably was the only one of the Three Stooges, at least so far, who got in the seat of Peromnia. He has the basis for a moveset, unlike the other two.
And there we go.
And there's his geostigma.
There's also this particularity that you have noticed. All the other team members, not just Gal and Tifa, possess that kind of ribbon tied on their arm. It's supposed to represent as a sort of a memento for, as a tribute for Aerith.
Nice, I guess.
Unfortunately, Kadaj, your mommy has seen better days.
Oh, fuck! I broke my mother!
It probably smells in there.
My mother's
I'm sorry, that wine.
You want to try that again, sir?
Can you check who voices Kadaj, just for funsies?
Kadaj,
Yes, sir.
What am I fighting for? Seriously, that is literally what that sounds like.
If it's the same guy who voiced Zero in X4,
Severely doubting it.
Oh, snap. I heard the sound of
Steve Staley.
I don't know.
I can imagine Cloud going, "Hey, I heard the sound of somebody crying like a bitch, so I figured you'd be here. And look what I find."
Okay, is most known for voicing Neji, Hyuga, and Shibuki in Naruto.
Well, in that case, I guess it would work, but anyway. See, here's the thing. Kadaj wouldn't be so bad of a villain if he at the least was more over the top. I mean, he kind of is being a bit in this sequence, but he needs to be more over the top. Like, if you're not going to make him interesting, at least make him over the top, gloriously over the top.
So yeah, the place where Aerith was cultivating the flowers. Turns out it has an entire fucking reserve of water lying under it, which combined with the flowers, it helps stuff like heating the geostigma of all things.
Dwebs, do your Aerith voice with I am Jesus. Go on.
Anyway, but...
Basically.
Anyway, though, honestly, though, wouldn't it have made more sense for the pool where Aerith died in to be the one that absorbed the healing energy? Why is it the one
point
at the
of
church?
corrupting it, so...
True, yeah, but my question is, why is it the one at the church that does it?
I guess it's because, again, it was the place where Aerith was standing the most before embarking on her adventure. I don't know.
So what, that means that the place I stood most will have my healing energy after I die or something?
Jova. I don't make the rules.
Alright, and here...
Ask God.
Alright, now Kadaj and Cloud are about to fight on the rooftops near the remnants of the Shinra building.
I will give the movie credit. Using the ruins as an excuse for us to get to fight in these iconic areas was a clever idea.
With the people being evacuated.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Turn to the camera. Cloud turns to the camera. Don't worry. Everybody's been evacuated.
And by the way, now we're about to get a remix of the Genova battle theme, which sounds like it. At start, it sounds like it came from the Goonies for some reason, but it's still also not great. Yeah, what I was saying before, Jova. I get what you say about the fusion sword and everything, but again, between inheriting the memories of Zack and everything, Cloud is more trained in the two-hand combat and sword. While in this, it tries to use also dual wield and stuff like that.
Great! Yuffie brought the materia.
And yes, by the way, as Sid also mentioned before, he has a new airship now called the Shara, which he called from the person that loves it, so that's cute, I guess.
He named it after his wife.
Well, Jovi, you did. Well, Jovi,
Yeah, that is
your complaint is that anyone who's not named Cloud doesn't do anything, and I like materia, so.
Yeah, I want to highlight what Jova just mentioned. Yeah, it is a nice touch that he named her, that he named the ship after her, actually.
We also get a sort of an explanation how he got it in Dirge of Cerberus in one of the throwaway lines of dialogues. It's kind of still sad that we don't see the return of the highway.
I actually really like this bit here, where Tifa is basically explaining how Cloud has found the strength to fight again, and Yuffie's like, wait, I don't get it. Somebody explain it to me. And this is like, this is man talk, and Yuffie calls him sexist.
What's with Yuffie's voice?
Well, I think I got it, Shiori. It's Kim Possible when she was sick. You know the bit in have you seen Stitch in Time?
Yes, I love that movie.
It's basically that scene in Kim Possible. You know, see when she's like in her preteen. It's that pretty much.
It's like Jova said. Occasionally,
which is funny because you'd be supposed to be 18 at this point.
Anyway, you were saying, Pedro? It's like Jova said. Occasionally, you'll have some really good lines here and there, which again shows that this could have been really a lot better, but it doesn't.
Oh, and by the way, how does Cloud end the fight? With finishing touch! A move that shouldn't work on bosses, and it's borderline not useless but redundant in the original game.
And now you know why it's so OP in Smash.
Well, Teo.
Speaking of Smash.
Well, Teo, that just shows you how much of a fucking loser and total not boss material Kadaj is, I guess.
But just handle carefully the tip of a blade on your hand.
Like I said, Smash really made finishing touch just that powerful.
But Kadaj is a sore loser, which means we need someone to hijack the plot.
Yep.
Wrong, Kadaj. This is not a limit break. It's a hand break. Slice.
Okay, the original script said, "Welcome to my reunion." Weird, why they changed that?
Okay, so now Kadaj absorbs Genova's head.
Of Genova.
Yep. Which of course means
it's coming.
There we are.
Ladies and gentlemen,
which means he gets a new haircut.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to pretty much the one scene everybody remembers from this movie, and the best voice actor in this scene.
This is actually the premiere of George Newborn as Sephiroth, and it does leave an impact. And yes, this is also the first media that actually, cements the fact that Sephiroth is supposed to be left-handed.
Yeah.
Sure, he's a bit ambidextrous in a couple of his blows, but he's predominantly left-handed because it was a thing in the original artwork by Nomura. But the original game kind of forgot about that and had him right-handed in some places.
And for as mixed as the soundtrack is, the Black Mage's rendition of One Winged Angel
and I really
is flippin' badass.
I really like one thing that I really like is how Uematsu actually went back and rewrote new alternate lyrics for this particular thing, which
is what ruins it to me.
Oh,
sorry.
really?
So yeah,
again, it's ideally it's thematic because it's all about the memories and the fact that Sephiroth. We're trying to implement this new gimmick about Sephiroth being a memory that Cloud will never get rid of, which they also in Kingdom Hearts 2 with this, and it's just so between unnecessary and obnoxious. Not to mention they extend the songs very unnecessarily, which, again, the original orchestral remix of this did put a small extended piece right in the middle of it, but it was just short and on point without ruining the product. Once again, similar to other stuff like the Fusion Sword, this is once again trying too hard for me.
Now, this isn't the first Sephiroth English voice. The other voice in Kingdom Hearts, that, from what I understand, is not very well liked.
It was a thing, but
it's not like he's hated. It's just that everyone recognizes that it was made in a time where it was the first ever Sephiroth voice. And hey, come on, it is kind of cool that his first voice actor was literally a member of NSYNC.
Lance Bass was actually not bad as Sephiroth, I will argue. I mean, he wasn't perfect like George Newbern is, but he was a fine first attempt at voicing Sephiroth, I guess.
So if they recast everybody again, who's going to voice him after the guy they have now, Tim Daly?
To me, George Newbern should be Sephiroth, point in blank.
Who played the Superman in the animated series, original animated series?
Tim Daly, that's why.
That's the joke, man. Okay.
That's why I said it.
Yeah. Basically, okay, so here's the bit. Tim Daly originally played Superman in the Superman animated series. He was supposed to come back in Justice League, but for reasons with another series he was doing, they had to get a sound-alike, who admittedly was a pretty damn good sound-alike. This is where George Newbern entered the picture, and this is why there is an extra layer of brilliance. Not only is George Newbern the perfect voice for Sephiroth, but he is literally evil Superman. A voice which he also used to great effect in Superman vs. the Elite for that one scene where Superman's supposed to be
he said the line.
He said the line. Yes. He said it, everybody. He said it.
This is the premiere of Sephiroth wanting to sell pears to people.
And speaking of which, yeah, guys, they totally extended the Smash trailer into its own fight scene for this movie. Even dubbed it and everything. But yes. Oh boy. So, yeah. Needless to say, this makes the movie worth it. The movie may not really be good, but damn it, whenever this comes on...
It showcased the fact that the original concept was supposed to be just this. It really shows it. Went here.
Not to again, combining something like this, combining with the last, like with the final fight between Neo and Smith in Matrix Revolutions, this was basically a big thing in the mid-2000s. Big, epic action climaxes on top of buildings where everything is falling apart. And all that shit.
Bayonetta starts with something like this.
Yeah.
And that's just the start. Like, we literally got these guys cleaving through rubble and buildings and everything.
How much more variated can the Shinra building be?
Don't worry, too. Everybody was evacuated.
Okay, now it's important. Now, normally, in the normal cut, we get another small crash, but then the fight gets its conclusion. In here, they actually bother to extend it a bit more.
Yeah. I actually do think another thing that I really like about this fight in the complete version is the fact that there's more blood in it.
Yeah, I was about to mention they actually did add in more blood and people bruised in all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I don't know why Cloud is still doing his delivery job. And besides, one way he can sort out his little beef with Sephiroth. They can join together and form their own destruction company.
Yeah.
It's not all about destruction. Oh, God! Stupid, iconic move right through the shoulder! That hurts!
Yeah, I was about to mention instead, why for the Smash trailer we use this on Mario and not Link? It feels like it would have fit more that. And I know the joke is about, they killed Mario, but they already did that with Ridley's trailer.
Well, it's because Mario dying was becoming something of a trend.
And yes, again, for this new cut, Cloud gets martyred in the moment where in the original he was supposed to win the fight. So I kind of like the fact that a veteran who saw the original cut was like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Okay, okay. And now I know it's just.
While it was already present for the first Kingdom Hearts, this also cements the whole one-winged angel symbology on a literal level by having, Sephiroth having it.
This is why I mentioned that the Sephiroth at the end of the...
This is actually a point of contention, believe it or not. In the original cut, Cloud does manage to perform, gets this resolve and destroy and kill Sephiroth on his own volition as well. In here, it feels like he needs to be motivated by Zack to finish the job.
Which kind of feels redundant from the whole scene with Marlene.
And depriving a moment to him. Again, this is just basic. Crisis Core ultimately, continue this trend, but this kind of starts with the whole Cloud is not really special, Zack is.
Which, again, this is contradicted by the fact that Cloud apparently developed his own fighting style for this movie, because for all the stuff that Zack could do, he does not do half the crazy stuff Cloud does in this movie.
This also plays a bit fast and loose with referential stuff, because the talking about Living Legacy and everything, that was basically lifted from Crisis Core, so they were basically just interlocking stuff that they had already done. Okay. And also, I think that both cuts shares how the fight concludes. See, it's not the fact that Clouds, can use his ultimate technique. No, they need to give him a new one. And mastering the fusion sword is trying way too hard. The only
slash V7.
V5 actually, where Cloud teleports everywhere with the swords around until it performs it again. It's not a problem on its own, but it's again just trying too hard for something that doesn't need to. If a remake and every other product trying to go by, he fucking means it.
Not just that, even Smash as well.
Yes, please.
I was gonna say that line delivery a bit earlier. Yeah, I'll hold off a little bit longer because I want to hear the rest of the compilation. But yeah, so far no one's gonna convince me that Cody Christian's worse than Steve.
Okay, again, here's the problem, Dwibs. Nobody really got a good shot in this movie. Let me put it like this. It is nothing short of amazing that George Newbern sounds as amazing as he does in this movie. I mean it. The voice directing for this just comes off as shoddy.
Trust me, this is his worst performance by far, not an indicator.
Everyone just sounds so bored.
Which is interesting because this was his second performance, isn't it?
Yep.
Well, you know what? For as much as I don't care for Cloud's characterization in that game, he sounded fine as Cloud in Kingdom Hearts 1. Maybe not amazing yet, but still fine. Okay, also, to be fair, Dwibs, yeah, by the time of the latest Dissidia game, Steve Burton was sounding a lot better. I do feel like there are a lot of differences that just allowed the cast of the remake to have a much better start.
Think of it like with Jason Griffith with Sonic, where when Jason Griffith first started, he wasn't very good at Sonic, at all.
He's ascending.
Yeah.
So are we supposed to feel sad for Kadar?
My mother needs me.
Basically, yeah.
A case where him, Loz, and Yazoo were never real beings to begin with, but contribution construct using the live stream. So yeah, powered by souls of dead people in a way. Now, in the original cut, we actually do get the conclusion directly. We transition from this to the conclusion, but in here, there is just something slightly more added to transition there.
Yeah, but basically, Dwebs, think of Steve Burton the same way Jason Griffith was with Sonic, where when Jason Griffith first started with Sonic, but by the time we got to something like Sonic Unleashed, and especially Black Knight, he was definitely much better than when he first started.
So basically, if we go by that, he starts off okay, then gets worse, and then better. But by then it's too late.
I can tell you this genuinely. Well, I disagree on the first two Dissidia. I do believe that by the time of NT, T. Burton had perfected his gig for Cloud. It also helps that Cloud in that game is final characterized to be a decent person.
Basically, Tifa, what you're saying is that all Cloud needed was to just buck up and cheer up, and that could have solved the plot.
That's basically it.
We could have helped him, but nah.
We were here to support him. Watch out, Cloud, a homing shot.
Alright.
Why are you looking at me? I didn't do anything.
Okay, so this really does make me wonder. if the remake will eventually touch base on Advent Children and try and construct that into kind of its own game portion that can be better fleshed out story-wise.
In my opinion...
We got 2 games for that.
In my opinion, what they should do is... Okay, I'm okay with them... Yep.
Again, in the normal cut, we transition back to the conclusion. Now in here, we need to have this last gotcha moment from Yazoo and Lodz. Like... Fucking
really?
sore losers.
Yeah.
Really?
You forgot there were 2 more of us, you little bitch.
But in the original cut, Shirei, they just basically die in the attack of the Turks on the highway.
This is what I meant with some people having contentions against the complete version. Yes, it's more complete, but while trying to flesh stuff out better, it arguably adds on stuff that's needless. I'm sorry, like, this just feels like an anticlimax coming after the flipping Sephiroth fight. Like, I'm sorry, no. After the Sephiroth fight, you kind of blew your load. And yeah, like, they're totally gonna kill Cloud off here.
Yep. There you go, see, even Denzel's saying it. See? See?
But this was pointless. This was a pointless addition.
You'll come back, we promise.
But anyway, to answer Jova, I'm okay with them taking, trying to improve upon the stuff of Literature, because Literature Service that does have some cool things here and there, even though flawed. With Advent Children on the other hand, I would rather they just not touch it, to be honest with you.
There are some pieces that I guess can transition well for a proper video game of what Ever Crisis is trying to do, but we'll have to see what they actually pull off.
Like, here's the deal, Pedro. If I were running things, I probably would not want to touch back on Advent Children as well, but my guess is they are, because, again, consider this. The reason that I called Sephiroth out as a future Sephiroth in the remake was because only the Sephiroth of Advent Children has the black wing. He never has that in the original game. And I'm pretty sure the makers of the remake knew exactly what they were doing, especially since they more or less have...
We'll have to see what
time travel and all
does. There's still a lot of speculation to be done. Hi, future me. I hope you're doing fine.
But yeah, no. So my point is, Pedro. While if it were up to me, I wouldn't do it. But my guess is they probably are going to, since 1, they seem to be hinting at it. And 2, also, with how much they like to reference Advent Children, I doubt they're going to undo Advent Children.
Oh god, Cloud is tripping balls again.
Okay, to be fair...
Stop sniffing the materia.
Okay, to be fair, in this particular case, he's just unconscious.
Mm-hmm. Mako is one hell of a drugs kid.
Well, it kind of is, so...
Cloud, what have I told you about...
I actually like this line from Arif, actually. Hold on.
You? Your motherly.
It's a me.
This is like that moment in Xenogears where Faye is imagining Adley as his mother.
Don't you see, Teo? Zack and Arif in the Afterlife are going like, okay, so we're mommy and daddy to Cloud now?
Aerith, you're too innocent for this conversation.
Oh hey, Mom.
Are you sure about that, Shuri? I don't know.
Cloud, is this your fetish or something?
No.
Cloud has mommy issues just like the rest of them.
Live stream.
Sure. Allow me to remind you what Arif says when she intercepts Cloud while he's trying to leave without her. He said, "I'm not sick of you yet, so let's go." So I'm not sure she's all that innocent, Shuri. To be honest with you.
Also, doggo.
A wolfer, Shiroi.
It's a dog.
Sure. And yeah, Cloud was healed too with the magical waters of the that erupted from the tree.
Remember, Arif is Jesus.
Again, more religious symbolism with the baptism, of course.
I was just gonna say, my God, this wasn't the water that got pissed in earlier, was it?
No, this is the more pure one.
No, this is more fresh water that Arif
can.
Lovely piss-free water.
So...
Oh, and by the way, we're about to get Red 13's one line in the entire movie.
And he's performed by Teo's favorite voice actor, actually.
Hold on, I think he's about to say it. There we go.
And yes.
And that was it.
Bye.
I'm getting his paycheck for one line.
easiest
any lines?
a couple.
Yes, yes. But
Okay.
you know what? I'll give Liam O'Brien credit. He sounded cool as heck when saying.
Yeah, and that's actually another thing. Just based on that one line, I actually do dig the voice Liam O'Brien gives to Red in this movie, and I do prefer that voice over the one in the remake because the voice in the remake, much like with Tifa, sounds a bit too old for me. Because remember, Red is supposed to be a child. So it's I don't know.
Hey guys, it's a parallel to what Katash was doing before.
Honestly, Pedro. Okay, again, I'll wait till okay. I won't say this is definite until I see the rest of the compilation. But I think at times Rachel Lee Cook sounds too young as Tifa.
I disagree.
I don't really hear it.
I disagree.
It sounds like
it doesn't help. For this movie, she was rendered a bit skinnier than the original. Even in the remake, if you notice, is actually more proportioned. And I'm not talking about the boobs.
Everybody, jump on in for the pool
party.
A pool party in Aerith's
bathwater.
Again, Dwebs. This is
that wasn't chlorinated.
Again, Dwebs. This is the worst case for gauging how good she is as Tifa. Trust me.
I mean, that is literally what I said. I won't say it's a definite opinion until I see the rest.
In case you're wondering, the track is actually called Cloud Smiles.
Oh wait, we're about to get the line.
But he ain't smiling.
He was before, actually.
Basically, if anyone has an issue with Cloud getting together with Tifa, don't worry. Nomura's included a line that pretty much gives the shippers the A-OK. No, I am not kidding. Just listen to this line.
Hi.
I do like. Okay.
Basically, Aerith's going to get together with Zack in the afterlife, so yeah, Cloud, you can get together with Tifa.
I do like how it's. I do like the way Zack was just there crossing his eyes. It was like he was waiting to pick her up.
It's like, yo, Cloud. Nice to see you. Now I'm off to go get laid in the afternoon.
Dwebs, you can check her World of Final Fantasy voice acting. She's great. She's so great in that game.
I think that's it. I forgot.
Basically, yeah.
I think, there might be a small epilogue. Well, okay. I don't think there's a post-credit scene, but I'm leaving the video open still.
Oh, I get the reference to the credits now in the VII remake. They were made like this.
Yeah.
Starting with this, they bothered. Even Crazy Score has them like this.
This is looking pretty Kingdom Hearts.
It's also. No, that's the thing. That's the thing. Yeah, it's important to remember that this was one of many things. Like, it wasn't just this movie. There was a lot at the time that Square was doing in tandem with this.
Imagine all the animation.
And I do really like
credits.
Okay, I should address something actually on my Blu-ray. On the Blu-ray, it gives you if you mess around with the angle setting on your Blu-ray player, you can switch it between the credits for the English and Japanese voice acting.
Yeah, that's pretty cool actually. And I actually really like the credits music too. And we're going to hear the main and we're going to hear the Final Fantasy theme later in these credits.
Safer team, even a fucking movie has it over here.
No, well remember, Nobuo Yamato's doing the music too, so of course he would be in there. So.
Okay, well, also was just a bit of a jab, but I guess we can start with the final thoughts.
Can I go first?
Please.
This should be fun. Okay. I've heard a lot of mixed things from different people going into this movie. Some think it's just fine. Others thought it was the worst thing to have the name Final Fantasy VII on it. Somewhere in the middle. I don't think it's as bad as people say it is. But a lot of the fun I got from this movie was unintentional. A lot of the time, like from people crying out for their mommy to some weird transition change. Yeah. It's like what Jova said. This film sometimes doesn't feel that well put together. It's one step away from the Inspector Gadget movie transitions.
Well, what about the action sequences?
Okay. I like most of the action sequences. Mainly it's due to the choreography. Although at times I think they cut around. I think they kind of overdo the cutting in the editing. I mean, when it comes to the action.
You mean. A lot of quick, rapid cuts.
Yeah, that's the one trade from.
Let me just point out something real quick. There's in the credits it just showed up Kingdom Team, and guess who the first showed up in the Kingdom Team is Tatsuya Kando, the animation director of the Kingdom Hearts series and director of the Wallens with You series. So there you go, the Kingdom Team.
Someone in an interview did mention that part of the choreography was at least partially conceptualized by the people working on Kingdom Hearts. So yeah.
It's Nomura's team, so it makes sense. Carry on, Dubs.
Alright. Characterization. Now this one should be easy because I can list the people who I think are in, or at least have their character be somewhat entertaining still in this movie. Yuffie, Sid, Tifa somewhat.
What about Vincent?
Vincent, I'll be honest. I kind of forget a lot about Vincent.
It's ironic that most of the characters you mentioned barely show up in the movie.
They have like 2, 3, or 4 lines of dialogue each.
Yeah, and that's the baby in some way that can be viewed as a positive. And Reno.
Yeah. Oh, but look at that too. According to the credits, Nomura wrote the lyrics for Divinity. Interesting.
Yeah.
This is also the original One Winged Angel actually was fine with its Latin, but this kind of starts the trend of Square not knowing too much about use Latin words. But go on, Reeves.
Anyway, everyone else either has like even less screen time than those I mentioned. So they barely get any time to do anything at all. In fact, I'll be honest. Considering like Liam O'Brien only got one line in this, at the very least for now, until I see the rest of the compilation, comparing it to the remake, who had a lot more lines to work with, I think it's a bit unfair. Cloud. Now, on one hand, I do appreciate that he's still. Even from early on in the movie, he still goes out of his way when the situation calls for it to help people in danger. Unfortunately, his main issue is I get it.
Scene. I forgot.
Yep, after credit scene.
And I just turned off my Blu-ray player because I thought that was it.
Actually,
it's still more credits. My bad. Continue, Lives.
Well, not so much for that then.
It's the credits given in this weird circular mode.
With the original song based on the movie.
This is
with live action, with stock footage, mind you.
Hey, Jova, look at that. The song is.
Oh my God! Look, there's Cloud again. I guess doing his delivery.
Yeah, go on, Dweebs.
Go on, Dweebs.
Yeah, yes, Cloud delivery. Unfortunately, yeah, he's okay. I wouldn't say he's a mopey git. But a lot of times it's like a dementor came out to his house and sucked out his soul. And I'm not just talking about the voice acting, although I mean, considering Steve Burton had a performance as Cloud under his belt at this point,
I really chalk it up to the voice direction messing him up.
It's just bizarre that he just sounds like he'd rather be anywhere else but here.
That's kind of how most people sound in this movie.
Yeah, that's okay. Here's the thing. If your name is Cloud or Tifa, he didn't come off really well in the movie. Steve Burton sounds like he'd rather be anywhere else, and Rachel Lee Cook sounds like. Okay, here's what she sounds like to me. She sounds like she just woke up from bed, but she was breathing in helium while she was asleep.
Yeah.
I just don't. It just doesn't work. Now, as for Bob, okay, is he even really Sephiroth? He's just someone. To me, he just came off as like that guy gets to cosplay a Sephiroth for a bit.
Are you talking about Kadaj?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's how it works. He is Kadaj until he merges with Genova. Remember, the way Genova works is that Genova is completely influenced by Sephiroth's will. So the Sephiroth that was fighting Cloud was actually Sephiroth. So technically, Dwibs, even in that one awesome fight scene, that wasn't Kadaj. That was just Sephiroth hijacking his body. So you don't have to give Kadaj any credit for any bouts of awesomeness.
Yeah, and that leads the villains.
Sephiroth was cool.
That's the thing though, he's right at the very end. Now, as for the other villains, we have Virgil. Moving on. Yeah, the villains don't really make much of an impression. In fact, the only reason I don't think they're worse than the ones from the third My Hero Academia movie is that they last to the end. Yeah, think of that what you will. But they're still not very good. Like one just keeps moping for his mummy. The other one is slightly redeeming trait is that he reminds me of a Devil May Cry character. And he's there also.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Oh my god, did he look cool being
not
there?
Not really. Go on.
I like to imagine that the developers thought he looked cool with all the work they put into this.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, Jovi. You know who else was just there in the movie but looked cooler?
Sephiroth?
No, all the other main characters from all the other main protagonists from the first game.
Partially Kate Sith.
Hey, Kate Sith was there and he was Scottish. That's a thing.
Most of his lines were telling Yuffie to shut the fuck up.
I mean, that's a valid thing to say, but...
Well, I mean, okay. On one hand, I do like that. Yes, like I said, yeah, those characters were in character the most, but it's just a shame they weren't in the movie that much. Are they in much of the other games?
Not really. Dirge of Cerberus.
Kate Sith, actually, believe it or not, Kate Sith gets to be slightly playable in.
Alright, now here's the actual after credit scene.
Oh, okay, so there is an after credit scene.
Hey, a group shot. Most of you did nothing.
Yeah, don't you see? That's what this is all about. No, it wasn't.
Don't you wish you could have had this for the whole movie?
I think I remember now this credit scene. I think it's about Cloud finally stopping and actually answering his fucking phone.
Oh, and I think also they're going to show that he
puts back the Buster Sword where it belongs, yeah.
And cleans it too.
And then
Cloud flowers is sprouted over Zack's grave.
And then but Cloud is so strong because of the Mako energy, he accidentally breaks the phone before he can.
But you see, it's not a grave. This is where a hero began his journey.
This is a grave.
I mean, that's kind of where the journey ends.
Oh, right, no, he put the Buster Sword in
the church.
Which is clean.
And look, guys, it's just like the opening to Final Fantasy VII's menu.
And Jill will be so proud. Oh, wait, we don't care about him.
Nope.
So, and the music is just... Honestly, I think the music's just kind of there. To be honest. Although, yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that after, like, the mid-2000s, Nobumatsu's work just kind of started being just there with a few exceptions. And I have heard better remixes of Nobumatsu tracks, to be honest. Like, I've heard the Pixel remaster of 4, for example. Anything else that I've missed?
What did you think of the final fight between Cloud and Sephiroth? Since, let's be honest, that is pretty much the reason anyone comes to see this movie these days.
Yeah, 5-minute scene and an over 2-hour movie.
Actually, it's a 10-minute scene.
Well, that's the thing, though. that scene felt like went by the fastest because it was the best one. All the others felt like they went on a while.
It's kind of shaded by Barrett, who says I gave him 10 minutes.
Ironically, Dweebs, you kind of just pointed out the reason why some people prefer the original cut of Advent Children. Because while that version does have its own problems, it also doesn't have in some of the extra fight scenes that go on too long. Or again, that extra fake-out scene of Cloud getting shot, which... Yeah, no, I'm sorry, look. You can't continue blowing your load after the fight with Sephiroth. That's just too much. And like I said, nobody even really buys it, because it's, I mean, sure, outside of the little minute of shock, no one's really that worried about it, despite Cloud getting fatally shot. That kind of says how extra that scene feels.
Yeah.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah,
he got better by bathing in Aerith's bathwater.
I got better.
You.
What? Hey, look, you're dead. You shouldn't mind it, Gareth.
No, it's my
I think that makes it worse.
my bathwater, you jerk.
Remember, Shiroi, a title for this movie that some people call it is Kids Consume Aerith's Bathwater.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get that out of our heads right now. So yeah, overall, it's not the complete disaster I've heard some people say it is, but it's also not that great either. It's just kind of a mid-tier. It's just kind of a mid-tier film in general, and I'd say it's at least slightly more exciting than Kingsglaive.
Okay, that's one thing I'll disagree with.
All that remains for me to do is to watch Spirits Within at some point, so I can complete this
well, of course you
Final Fantasy film trilogy.
Well, of course you do, Dwebs. After all,
fall asleep while watching
well, of course you do, Dwebs. After all, it's one of the greatest sci-fi films ever made. After all,
shut up, Max.
yeah. Square Pictures is magnum opus. But yeah, it's just kind of mid.
Yeah. But before the next person, I want to point out something out to Jova. Okay, the theme song during the credits is called "Calling."
Yeah.
Jova.
Yes.
What's up with Kingdom Hearts team? The Kingdom Hearts team and songs called "Calling." Basically, one of the most iconic songs in the Wilderness Review is also called "Calling," but it's very different than this one.
My guess is like,
subcontracted to an actual J-rock singer.
My guess is that, it's because it's a similar bout of summoning, and, summoning does play a heavy bout into the franchise, so maybe that's the idea with why they
whatever
have Calling in it. Otherwise,
Anyway,
it's just to sound mystical and fancy.
Shiroi, I know that between the movie and our commentary might have been a bit too much bombarding, but what do you think?
It was just boring more than anything. It's like a thing with 13 where, like, I feel like I'd be more annoyed if I had any real attachment to this series, but I don't really have that. It's just, it dragged on quite a bit, and the characters, like, people complain about their characterization, but I don't think they really had any character for the most part. Everybody's just really bored the entire time. Or in Tifa's case, very quiet. Like, the actress really needed to speak up half the time.
Not just her. Her fight scene was quiet.
Yeah, the music for that one was weird. Like, most of the soundtrack was fine. But that theme they remixed there was too quiet for what they were going for.
Yeah.
The movie definitely looks good outside of, okay, the CG itself looks good. The movie is still very dull, though. Outside from a handful of moments, it's still very just drab. Somebody needs to design some more colorful clothes in this universe.
Yeah.
Everybody just got really into Shadow the Hedgehog one day, and this is the result.
Remember, Shiroi, it's a product of its
Shadow
time.
The Hedgehog was more colorful.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the outfits specifically.
Well, like I said, Shiroi, this is a product of its time.
But again, Shiroi, even Shadow's more colorful. He's got black, red, white, gold.
Yeah.
Where the hell was everybody in this movie, by the way? Were they out to lunch?
Yes.
Just...
Barrett was busy running a flipping oil company, apparently.
Yeah, the guy who really cares about his daughter, you know?
And the environment.
Is like, well, you look after her, guys, I'm out.
Right, it's not just looking after his daughter, he also cares about the environment. Like, he's the one who founded Avalanche, or at least Midgar's division of Avalanche, to save the environment. And okay, maybe he is running a super special oil company that's environmental friendly. Not elaborated on in the plot. Now, one could argue they don't need to elaborate on that. I argue then, why did they include the dumb plot point of him running an oil company of all things, which are notorious for damaging the environment?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but as far as the villains go, only 2 of them really did anything. The other one was just kind of there, and I should be more specific. The one with the longest hair was just kind of there.
Yazoo.
Yeah, there we go.
Zazu.
Again, they really should have really diversified Yazoo from Kadaj. Like, I'm sorry, like, look at Laws. He is essentially Sephiroth if he possessed Elvis. Silly as that is, he's bulky and, it makes sense, so he looks different enough.
Mm-hmm. I think he was the better of the 3, actually.
Sure, yeah.
No, I think that's it. This was just incredibly boring.
What did you think of the fight between Cloud and Sephiroth?
It was good, I guess. Like, the action stuff is, like, probably the best thing in this movie. The parts of it I could actually look at, but yeah.
The reason I asked specifically about the Cloud and Sephiroth fight is because technically that fight is the entire reason that this movie exists, because that is apparently what the movie started off of. So think about that as like literally the movie's core from which everything sprouted out and around.
Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to see if this will be part of the remake. It probably will.
We already, if you forgot, Shira, you remember, like I mentioned, we already had the 3 spirits of the Time Janitors. The final boss, assuming the forms with weapons that represent Kadaj, Lodz, and Yazoo during the climax, and the dev team confirmed it was intentionally referencing that. So the vibes that, again, we got from the remake is that elements from the compilation are kind of merging into a freakish Frankenstein monster, and nobody has an idea where the fuck are we going with this.
And I'm okay with that.
I am so excited to see where things go, because honestly, this is like a Terminator Genesis actually went... Whoa, okay, this is like if the Terminator franchise actually went through with what Terminator Genesis was trying to do, instead of going to Dark Fate.
But yeah, that's it for me for this. Just, this exists.
Pedro.
It exists. Alright. Okay. Alright. It's not good at all. Like, because the plot is as thick as a fucking sheet of paper, and and as a result cannot carry a 2-hour movie. The characters, for the most part, are either bland or badly written. And while I do really like the score, like Teo said, yeah, the remixes are... I mean, I still enjoy the new version of Win Win Danger. I still think it's really cool. Yeah, the different lyrics, again, because of the different theme, that's fine by me. I mean, we've heard Win Win Danger so many times by this point. It's nice to, put a new spin on it for a change. So I'm okay with that. Yeah, it's not good. It doesn't work. I mean, there's the occasional really fun interaction here and there, but it's not much, sadly. As a result, the movie is really can be really dull depending on your mindset when you're watching. The action scenes are really cool, I will argue. For all, if nothing else, Nomura really knows how to write action sequences. Which again, you also see this in the scripted reaction commands of Kingdom Hearts 2, the choreography of the final boss of VII Remake, and and plenty of other stuff that you can think of. Like so no, definitely. Like that's definitely. And again, going back to the whole black suits thing that everybody's wearing. Again, the thing you have to remember, Shiroi, is that Nomura loves mid-2000s Edge. He loves it. So remember, that's the whole reason Stranger of Paradise exists, because he wanted to. Well, there's another reason why he makes Stranger of Paradise has its own idea of what to add to the Final Fantasy franchise, but I will not say because of spoilers. But in terms of the actual tone of that game, it's because Nomura loves mid-2000s Edge. He loves it. Yeah, absolutely. Again, that's why the characters in Final Fantasy XV are designed the way they are, because Nomura likes mid-2000s Edge, that kind of aesthetic specifically. He loves it. He himself dresses like that, actually, a lot of times.
There was a reason why he went through the entire phase of zippers and belts.
Yeah.
Which really explains the costume scheme of the guys in Final Fantasy 15. Because remember, he was originally the developer for that game.
Yeah, he was. And that's also why you see the characters in VII Rex in Kingdom Hearts 3 also be dressed like that, because again, this is Nomura's favorite aesthetic. He loves again let the characters in Stranger of Paradise also their default outfits are not like super black, but like Jack's shirt is definitely black and everything. So
no, actually, it's definitely darker, but it is of purple color. It is noticeable.
Sure,
but. It is a point, however, that the characters are bothered to have different kind of still colors that are noticeable. The thing about that is that the fact that instead they are more casual, outfit compared to more grandiose stuff.
It also helps that you can customize the outfits in Strangers of Paradise as well.
No, that is true, Jova. Between the loot that you get and also the stuff that's inherited to a class, for example. But the thing about, remember, Jova, when stuff like a character gets selected to be present again in a crossover, the default outfit is what the iconography has to abide to. And as you can imagine, Jack, who has showed up in Opera Omnia so far, gets to have the default outfit, and he really does stick out in all the ways you can imagine.
Again, the main reason why Stranger of Paradise is fun, despite still being an incredibly bonkers story that's on technical terms badly written, is because Stranger of Paradise fully owns it and just goes all out and just so over the top with it, and it embraces completely. Whereas this movie, on the other hand, this movie is definitely a product of the mid-2000s, definitely, because it has all the worst things that came with mid-2000s media, but none of the over-the-top fun factor of it. And that's the reason why this movie fails. The reason something like it also has to do with the fact that this movie came out at the right time. But when this movie came out, this kind of aesthetic was the most popular, very popular. So that's why this movie, despite its terrible quality, still was a success technically. Whereas Stranger of Paradise, by this point nowadays, the mid 2000s Edge era is regarded as stupid, and a lot of people laugh at it and mock it. That's why a lot of people love to mock Shadow the Hedgehog and other stuff. That's That's why that's why Stranger of Paradise got the incredibly maybe negative is too strong a word, but definitely not positive reaction it got compared to this movie. Because this movie came out today, people would just hate it. If this movie came out today, people just hate it. But this movie had the benefit of coming out at a time where people were really into this kind of stuff. Go on, Joe.
Keep in mind also, when it comes to Advent Children, I think part of why it sold well is obvious. It was connected to Final Fantasy VII. Some people may scoff, but no. The Final Fantasy VII hype lasted for years. Heck, you could argue the Final Fantasy VII hype is still very much a factor this day. I mean, let's be honest, Final Fantasy VII does tend to be a set of words that prints dollars immediately, right there and then. And given how the first time Advent Children came about, nobody really had an idea of how it would turn out. But most people were like, hey, more Final Fantasy VII, sign me up. So honestly, even if this movie had been the worst thing ever, I would bet you it still would have sold much just because it was Final Fantasy VII.
it boils down to the big problem. When approached by Square executives about creating a compilation of a Final Fantasy game, Kitase picked 7, and like Jova said, yeah, technically there was room to expand. The problem is nobody at Square apparently had a good idea for what to do with a compilation of Final Fantasy 7, apparently. You'd think they would pick...
see later, apparently they didn't hold meetings to help keep things continuous, because again... later stuff will also contradict other bouts of the compilation.
That being said,
Tio alluded to.
That being said, for as bad as this movie is, I am at the very least glad to say that as far as the compilation of Final Fantasy VII is concerned, this is the bottom. Everything aside from this movie is at the very least better. Not great, not good necessarily, but this is, when it comes to the Final Fantasy VII compilation, this is the bottom of the barrel. It doesn't get any worse than this. It only gets better from this. Like Crisis Core, for us, even though it does have quite a lot of problems, it still does have some merits to it. And again, it's a beloved game that's getting a re-release for a reason. Like that game actually is pretty enjoyable for what it is. And Dirge of Cerberus, despite being a bad game, I will argue does have some cool things to it. And in fact, I actually argue that it executes the mid-2000s edge thing better than this movie, actually. So, yeah. So when it comes to the compilation itself, things get better. This is terrible, but things get better. Overall, yeah, not good at all. However, by Square movie standards, this was definitely still technically a step up from Spirits Within, if anything, because I cannot even imagine how could they make a Final Fantasy movie that's worse than Spirits Within. So yeah, once you start with Spirits Within, you can only go up from there.
I'm actually curious if you have any memories of it. How would you rank or at least consider Legend of the Crystals?
I remember liking it okay, but I haven't seen it in so many years at this point that I would have to rewatch them again to properly judge, because it's been so long. I don't remember much from... I remember not hating it, at least. But whatever, we'll have to see, maybe. No, because after Spirits Within... No, because Spirits Within was just absolutely atrocious, so this was at the very least, for as bad as it is, it's still a step up, technically. And to ask, I might as well talk about it, because guess what? I don't know about you, Theo, but I saw Spirits Within in theaters.
Oh my god, seriously?
Really?
I'm so sorry for you.
Oh my god, that is... No, that would legit be a movie where I could literally feel the dollar...
Well, you have to understand, Jova, at the time, there was no real reason to doubt this movie. Remember, we had just gotten Final Fantasy IX recently, which was a brilliant Final Fantasy, the last brilliant Final Fantasy game by Sakaguchi, and this movie was a Final Fantasy movie directed by Sakaguchi himself. So
you know what? I may not have been into Final Fantasy, but I did hear the hype about how they were going to pioneer the use of CGI actors.
And remember, Spirits Within, even though 7 did have that inspiration too, Spirits Within, according to Sakaguchi, was the story he always wanted to tell ever since his mother died. Because Spirits Within goes full hard with the whole life after death thing and the whole thing. Because, so trust me, that movie was a passion project by Sakaguchi. The fact that it's so terrible is what makes it all that much more devastating. Because at the time, there was no reason to think that the movie was going to be bad. It was directed by... when did the Wing Commander movie come out, too, now that I think about it? The late 90s, right?
2001.
Still, I think it's still the 90s.
Yeah, because aside from the Wing Commander movie... Yeah, after the Wing Commander movie, this was the second time we had a
1999.
Yeah, so basically this was the second time the creator of a video game franchise directed the movie adaptation of his franchise. And just like with the Wing Commander movie... It didn't, so you can make an argument, well, the Wing Commander movie should have been your warning, I guess, but at the same time, unlike with I guess it's just one of those cases where it's just weird.
Okay, look, hindsight is 2020. There was no way to know it would turn out the way it would.
Definitely. It's one of those cases
where... You could have pretty much a dream team of people working on a project, and it could still turn out bad.
Blue Dragon. I was about to say that. But anyway, yeah, Final Fantasy VII Advent Children is not good. I still kind. Okay, let me put it this way. I enjoyed this movie as long as I just watched the best scenes, aka the action sequences, and some minor little characters bits here and there. As long as I just watched those little bits and I just skip for everything else, it's fine. But again, the movie itself is just yeah. So, go on. I'm done.
I'll go next. I've had a lot of negative stuff to say about this movie, but I'll say this. I don't think we necessarily need a world where we never got this movie. I will give this movie one thing. One thing it did succeed, it kept the Final Fantasy hype alive. Mind you, for varying reasons, and partly because people wanted a better continuation than what Advent Children gave us. But no, mission successful. It made them the money that Spirits Within lost them. And again, how much of that is based on its actual merit and how much of it being tied to 7 is up to you to debate. But no, it did succeed in that. That being said, this movie is a mess. It's a mess to process. It's a mess to go through. Like, in typical Square Enix fashion, they took a plot that should be simple and needlessly complicated it with ridiculous rhetoric and narrative, plot holes up the wazoo, and again, they could have easily have just had this be a story about Cloud getting the band back together to stop Sephiroth again. Like, as simple as that is, there's a lot of fun you could do with it. But no, we gotta spend the first half dealing with Cloud and his mopey self. And look, I do not inherently mind Cloud being mopey. What I do mind is, again, that stupid time skip problem here. We don't actually get to see how he got to this point where he had lost all hope. Again, mind you, because kind of already did that in the original 7, but hey, who's counting at this point? Like, he's so down in the dumps that he doesn't think of the obvious play to do. Hey, why don't you regather the team that defeated Sephiroth the first time? And gee, what a shock, when he finally gets them together, they win! I mean, it doesn't make sense that he has to relearn this lesson overall. And it's not helped by the fact that this would be his characterization in a lot of other stuff. Kingdom Hearts, the compilation, the Dissidia games, until they finally, got their heads out of their rear ends and realized, hey, Cloud's not supposed to be this down in the dumps. It's funny, really, how Vincent was cheated out of being in Kingdom Hearts because they stupidly thought that, Cloud and Vincent are way too similar. But ironically, they made Cloud even more of a downer than Vincent of all characters. The guy who has every reason to be a downer given how messed up he got, in all things considered. Like, no. And it's not just Cloud. The characterization with Aerith was made way too pure. Tifa... Okay, Tifa's characterization was fine, but man, she does... it's... Okay, it sort of is probably a problem with the voice directing, but I will admit, she sounds very off in this movie. I'm not going to blame that on Rachel A. Cook. Well, okay, Rachel A. Cook probably does deserve some of the blame, but I definitely attribute it more to the voice directing because... almost all of these actors have sounded better before. But I will say, one character whose characterization did get a bit messed with, but still comes out shining, is Sephiroth. Yes, despite the fact that Sephiroth shows up in about, 10 minutes of this film, he arguably is one of the better handled characters, and is fleshed out in some senses. That said, unfortunately, like Tia mentioned, this movie is what really kicked in the trend of suddenly Sephiroth was obsessed with Cloud. When originally in the original 7, Sephiroth was so full of himself that he barely acknowledged Cloud sometimes.
He found Cloud useful for bringing to him the black materia, yes, but that was literally just Sephiroth manipulating Cloud just for his own gaining. It wasn't secretly obsessed with him and wanted to troll him or something.
Now, while the remake did bring back Sephiroth being obsessed with Cloud, I am okay with that in the sense that, one, they have worked it in a way where it's kind of ridiculous, but just at this point, a funny enough trend that it's practically tradition. And two, they really seem to be leaning heavily on the idea that the Sephiroth we are dealing with in the remake is future Sephiroth. And it kind of makes sense that future Sephiroth would be obsessed with Cloud because, hey, Cloud defeated him now not once, not twice, but 3 goddamn times. So, yeah, Cloud's a problem to deal with. But no, another problem was that it made Sephiroth way too stoic. And yeah, Sephiroth was stoic before, but he wasn't like, just uber god mode man every time. He still had moments of being human, despite him trying to claim he was anything but. It's particularly the moment where Cloud catches him off guard at the reactor core. But, no. Okay, despite the problems with this characterization, Sephiroth is still amazing here. Thanks in large part to George Newbern. Now, if the voice directing is the problem, then either they realized they could not screw things up with Sephiroth, or George Newbern just fought through will, because no, he is fantastic as Sephiroth. Like I have said, Cloud versus Sephiroth is the reason pretty much anyone comes to watch this movie these days. It's definitely the most rewatched clip of it on YouTube, that's for sure. Even Sakurai from Smash Brothers knew that's the money shot. That's the shot you use to introduce Sephiroth. So, to give Advent Children credit, it did also have some positive influences on the franchise. But back to the negative here. The actual 3 main villains, Kadaj, Laz, and Yazoo, they're... Okay, from the very introduction, we don't even get much time to really absorb them before suddenly we get a fight scene between them and Cloud, where they monologue about how, they're so much better than Brother Cloud and all that, we'll bring back Mother. And then they vanish without really accomplishing much. And then they show up without really accomplishing much. They beat people up without accomplishing much. Now, granted, eventually the plan does come together, but man, even when their plans are supposedly succeeding, they do not really feel like they're accomplishing much. It says something that Sephiroth has to essentially hijack the plot to get it moving along better than any of them ever could. Mind you, the story does show how formidable they are by having them wail on other characters to varying degrees. But yeah, no, Kadaj is way too whiny. And Yazoo is way too similar to Kadaj. It says something that Laz, the Sephiroth remnant that arguably stands out the most, ain't even supposed to be the main Sephiroth remnant. No, that's supposed to be Kadaj. And the story is weird at the end. I guess we're supposed to feel sorry for them? The scene plays it off as a bittersweet moment, but no, these guys were dicks. And hell, in the end, they literally try to sneakily shoot... Well, not try. They literally shoot Cloud in the back. What do you want us to feel about these guys? I don't know. And it's a shame that they take up so much screen time because a lot of our heroes from the original 7 are not there much. I'm not even a fan of Kate Sif, but give the Kate Sif fans a bone, for Christ's sake. And that still might be better than what Red 13 fans got. Yikes. I mean, and with Barrett. I'm sorry, him suddenly deciding to own an oil company, it just feels like a lot to ask of from the plot. And again, I get it, maybe it's supposed to be a small detail. Well, if it's a small detail that doesn't make sense without explaining it, either don't include it or explain it well. Granted, that is one of the lesser problems with the movie, but
it's a symptom of a larger problem. Again, the fact that these people who did work on the original in some kind of capacity either don't seem to care or deliberately decide to deviate from either characterization or iconic imagery from the original game, either for the sake of it or because they believe that trying something new has to be the only way.
To me, this just comes across as plain incompetence rather than malice.
Okay. I think it's a bit of a mix in the sense where, while it wasn't intentional malice, it really does feel like malice towards the original. And it's not just the characters, it's the music as well. When you're looking forward to hearing remixes of Those Who Fight or Those Who Fight Further, you're treated with, piano scene. And I get it. Vocal dissonance, but it doesn't work. It just feels dull and makes the fight scene feel a bit duller than it should. And yeah, the version of Those Who Fight Further feels unrecognizable. Again, the best remix is One Winged Angel by far, and kudos to Nobuo Uematsu, but man, what were they telling people with these remixes? And it's not... Now, I will say this, though. The fan service we do get with them going to certain locations from the old game, that was handled relatively well, and it didn't just be like, oh, we gotta go here or there. But honestly, this really just raises my biggest issue with the movie as a whole. This movie shares the problem that a lot of bad live-action adaptations, or hell, movie adaptations in general, bad ones, have. They tease you with, oh, you're totally going to get this, and then you either don't get it, or you get an incredibly inferior version of it, or you get a version that's different because these creators thought that they knew it better. And granted, to be fair, these are mostly the original people from the 7 game, but nah, it doesn't feel that great. And no, I don't want to have to wait all this time just to see the characters show up and then barely do anything. Thankfully, they do get to help in fighting Bahamut, but that's pretty much it fight scene-wise for the majority of the characters. I mean, hey, Aerith and Zack are back. But yeah, no, the Zack thing. I do agree. Part of my issue has always been about how it feels like 7 has really tried to turn itself into the handjob fest for Zack, where it turns out, no, he inspired Cloud, and nothing Cloud ever did was really original. Zack probably would have done it, if not better. No, miss me with that BS. And again, by that logic, Cloud technically surpassed Zack because in this movie, Cloud is clearly doing moves that Zack never did, which means that he developed his own fighting style, so yeah, maybe that wasn't their intent, but it sure comes off like that, and it's annoying. That said, Rick Gomez is great as Zack, and hey, Aerith can be with Zack, Cloud can be with Tifa, so mission accomplished there for the shippers.
Except for the one who shipped Eric with Tifa.
Well, hey, I hear they're eating well with the remake now.
But what about...
Not everyone can be happy, I know.
But what about the Sephiroth and Cloud shippers?
With each new gaming spin-off, they get a piece of that pie anyway.
Pretty much. Hey, look, that's what Smash is for, Pedro. Where Sephiroth and Cloud can smash to their heart's desire.
I guess.
Anyway, with the remake specifically, it seems like they're going for all the Cloud X ships.
Pretty much. Even Jess is getting in on the action there. But, yeah, no. Okay. Another good point to this movie is the animation. Strictly the animation, though, not the coloring. Because, holy cow, the coloring in this movie is dank. Right down to a lot of the characters' wardrobes. It's...
Again, the joke that everybody said when the movie came out is that everyone was dressed up going to the funeral, and while it's not applicable to literally everyone, it's a sentiment that's still valid for a lot of characters.
Which, maybe one could say they were still doing it in mourning of Aerith. Heck, they're even still wearing the ribbons in commemoration of her. But again, it's not something that's mentioned or pointed out in the story. And you can't expect your viewers to just infer on everything here and there. Especially since not even all of them wear black, so, no, it's not even consistent on that regard. Shame.
Well, then they're being disrespectful to the dead. That's the reason.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, Reno and Rude. I'm a bit mixed on them. Yes, they're funny, but I do feel like they took them to being comic relief a little too much. I feel like the remake gets probably the best balance for them, while also paying homages to Advent Children. Let it be known, Advent Evangelion is not some horrible project that I hate so much that I would hate even references to it. No, I'm fine with there being references to it. Just because the product itself was, not good, doesn't mean that it did not have redeeming qualities. It did. Which is what allows me to rewatch this movie with relative ease. Like, look, if you know what you're getting into with this, you probably are just gonna skip to the fight scenes, maybe skip to the scene where the original team shows up. You're obviously gonna look at the Cloud versus Sephiroth fight scene, because if you're not here for that, what the hell are you here for in this movie? And yes, the final scene. Although that really just begged into stuff. Maybe this movie would have been better if we really just squandered it down to the Cloud versus Sephiroth bout, or heck, even Cloud and the team fighting Bahamut and then leading to the fight with Sephiroth. Granted, I do feel like that might be a little too easy, or in the sense where some might be disappointed because that would not be a full movie. Let's be honest, the best circumstance would have been if the whole plot flowed well together. But ironically, for something that's all about mystical magic water, this movie flows like a pretty crappy murky lake. Or the River Thames, when you get down to it. The point is, it does not flow well in its pacing or plotting, which is unfortunately a problem, and leads to this being a very, very jerky ride. But for all it's good, for all it's bad, Evan Children is a part of the VII franchise. There will be no changing that, unless Square really, really just decide to somehow wipe that from the board, which, come on, if they haven't done it before, they're probably not going to do it now.
No, like I said, aside from the remake, remember, both Square has released a 4K Blu-ray, I think last year, either that or at the beginning of this one, and has started more cross-promoting with stuff like Kadaj showing up in Opera Omnia, which I will be very quick in telling you. Characterization-wise is interesting because of a series of things that happen in that game. Kadaj is surprisingly teaming up with Cloud because he believes that the Sephiroth that shows up in there is not one that aligns with his own goal, and he believes that getting out of the world that they're in, he thinks fighting with Cloud is the better chance. So believe it or not, much like with the cast of 13, even Kadaj is better characterized in Opera Omnia.
Like, he actually gets a character for one thing. Like, not for nothing, Kajaj does not have much of a character in this movie outside of mother this, mother that. Oh my god, I'm a terrible son. I didn't notice that my mother was flipping next to me the entire time.
Okay. Like I said before, it would have at least worth it just to think that I just love the idea that Rufus has been intentionally keeping that thing hidden in his robe just so he could see Kadaj's face when he trolls him big time. That's just
yes. And you know what? Moments like that do make Evan Children worth it for me. Evidently, I do wish we'd gotten a better movie. But it has enough good in it that I'm willing to let it pass.
Yeah.
It is technically a bad project, but it's a bad project that I can still enjoy.
Yeah.
You know what? At the end of the day, that is way far better than a lot of the crap we have seen on this show.
Well, Jova, so I'm guessing you're like that face that Rufus makes with that smile, that just screams, dude, this was totally worth it just to see your face right now. I'm guessing that's what you're going for. You're using Rufus's logic then there.
That's kind of how I feel with this movie in general. It is definitely worth the price of admission for that Cloud and Sephiroth fight. So, Tio, your pick. You close us out with your thoughts.
Look, I already expressed enough how much disdain I have for this thing. I wanted to cover the basis to say that despite that, the movie has legitimately good points. Like I said, first and foremost, for as bad execution it might be, the plotting itself is not really that much of a bad thing. A couple of times passed, new threat arise, these 3 new people show up who are literally remnants of Sephiroth's conscience, but are not more active and screaming children wanting to be united with Genova. The characters had to stop them while having to deal with their own internal struggle. Sephiroth shows up at the end as the final boss. The end. Very basic, you get down to it, so not much of a complaint there for the basic structure of the movie. But like I said, everything around is just unbearable. I'm sorry. To me, the biggest problem in all of this is the repeated middle fingers to the original game in terms of how characters look and how they do things, and it showcases that it's not a thing of them not knowing what they do, because they bother to actually replicate the limit stuff like the limit breaks. So they do know what they are doing in that kind of sense, but weapons are barely existent in this in terms of iconic weapons from the previous game. I think the only one that's really accurate is Yuffie's 4-point star, or Sid Spear for that matter, because I think this was the introduction of Vincent Cerberus weapon, which he did not in the original game. But the outfits are almost all completely unsalvageable. Only a few of them are okay, and the color distribution is just awful. And and again, what bothers me the most is that this was the status quo for basically a decade. I could not escape this. People were cosplaying these particular costumes left and right because they ideally probably were more easy also to cosplay. And it just infuriated me so much to see this being used. Now, I get it that, for crossover purposes, this being the more close to an alt that Cloud has, it's the automatic thought process of we need an alternate costumes for this character, let's put that Cloud having these Advent Children one. But again, it's just so uninspiring in terms of the distribution of the colors. There is the basis of a good costume there with a different type of clothing, the asymmetrical design, which does reflect at least the original, soldier first class uniform. But basically the dyeing out of black ruins it for it. Basically.
If I understand correctly, too, you're kind of like me in that I get that Cloud needed his own original outfit because obviously he'd be done with Soldier. But would it have killed them to have made an original outfit that still feels like it harkens back to his personality instead of dull, dark, and gray?
But that's kind of applicable to almost all characters. Tifa never shows up with any of her weapons. I get even the premium heart might be a bit goofy, but at least the leather gloves. Like the clothes we get are a new pair of different black leather gloves that she gets for the fight against Lots in the church, but that's kind of it. And again, Bahamut showing up with this new design, despite hyping up Rasamol, the material being stolen and then being almost completely useless in how they perform. I guess you can argue that maybe it's Lots using haste during the fight against him in the Forest of the Ancients, but it did showcase the super speed technique already in Tifa's fight, so it's not really a thing that's powered up by the material. And even when they Lots and Yazoo take the final pot shot at Cloud, which showcase that they're using material that is growing into their arms, but it's not really something that they do. It's still using, Yazoo's pistol. Again,
like you mentioned earlier, stuff is just there conveniently. The only reason they got the material was that Tifa, I guess, decided to lug it to the church.
This, as a sequel, on this point alone, feels a step backward with that, because, again, it's kind of the polar opposite of how the Silent Hill games progressed, while those rely too much of iconic elements from the franchise that were just placed, at random and did not serve their purpose well. In here, there is a clear lack of them, under the idea of changing for the sake of it in order to feel like a product, but fucking up in the process. That's the biggest culprit of this movie to me, and this is not helped by the dreariness and gray of how this movie looks. Again, it says a lot that the moment Vincent shows up, it is like breathing a side of fresh air, because color shows up again in the frame.
But hey, at least we got Motorola, all nice and high def.
Yeah. Speaking of that, someone mentioned about the locations. I kind of disagree on that too, because we get to be in Midgar and the Forest of the Ancients. Like, the closest we get is, again, the location where Rufus is, and gets to, recover, and a single stop sign that mentions about Calm and the Chocobo Farm. That's it. We don't even get... Like, this is the kind of movie that would be a no-brainer to have Cloud having to visit again Nibelheim just to be sure, but we don't do that.
Shame we didn't even get Wu-Tai back.
The closest we get is one call from Yuffie that mentions that children are being kidnapped from Wu-Tai. Like I said, there seems to be... In order to integrate better the other characters, they try to have some of these, calls that Kai is supposed to have, or that he hangs up with, that talks about children, disappearing from all over the world. And I get the idea that might be something that gets expanded in Ever Crisis. Who knows? Maybe we'll see. But yeah, that also leads to how little the other characters are treated. It is criminal. And I'm not just talking about Kate Sip, although that's the biggest culprit along with Red 13. Again, Barrett and his iconic attitude barely show up in this. His adoptive daughter has to be relying on Cloud and Tifa to be raised upon, along with new character Denzel. That alone showcase how much the characters the makers did not understood how important was the connection that Barrett Marlene had with Cloud and how worked out. Something that the remake thankfully remembered, in great detail in Japan. Again, see it as a new airship because I guess toys, Yuffie is fine. Again, Vincent is probably the best of the side characters aside from Tifa and Cloud, and they kind of worked out the fact that he's kind of antiquated into it. Something that will get expanded again in the original Cerberus. That's pretty cute. Again, the score is almost not unsavageable to me. It's still also better than technically, much like the other remnants were still better than the one Space Within. No question to ask on that. I still don't even remember the score of Space Within. That should say everything. As much as I don't like a lot of the tracks on this, at least I can remember them.
I mean, it's Nobuo Uematsu not on his best, but even Nobuo Uematsu not on his best is still, at the very least, something that's worth listening to.
That's not... I don't think I remember you saying that for Blue Dragon.
Well, okay, fine. You got me there.
And as I told you, I kinda outgrown liking the final boss theme, the one with the Japanese lyrics.
Oh, that one
from Blue Dragon.
I'm sorry, Till.
But against the final boss drove out the one in the lava.
Usually, I just like you. I'm sorry. You have to understand, Theo, that usually my brain automatically represses Blue Dragon's existence. So you have to understand that my brain automatically represses it. You have to. It's kind of a thing. But
the feeling of a thousand Yomaro echoing through your mind.
See. Let me put it this way too. Like, okay, first of all, the only song in that game that I genuinely can remember is Eternity. Because Eternity is pretty much impossible to forget. But let me put it this way too. My reaction to Blue Dragon was probably the same one you had with this movie. Because that game was the one... Okay, it's Sakaguchi directing, Akira Toriyama designing the characters, and Nobuo Uematsu doing the music. This can't fail, right?
And that one too has a grayscaling going on, the saturation of colors.
Yeah.
But let me get back to this. The fight scenes are the best thing about this, and like I said, again, I want to be on an open mind. Just because the original was a turn-based RPG, that doesn't mean that the characters should just stop and stand on their places while doing their move. For this, I can understand what they were going with. There's enough suspension of disbelief to make me understand this. And again, good things came out of this flashing choreography for good games. So at the very least, there's a foundation.
We actually got in the very same year in 2005 when Kingdom Hearts 2 came out, which again, the final boss of Kingdom Hearts 2 has a lot of the same type of choreography we see here.
Yeah, it's like a forest fire. Sure, the ashes will actually fertilize the terrain, forest fire still happens nonetheless. What else is there? Well, I already talked about the costume, but the fusion sword attached to it, again, it's something that I don't like either. I already explained why. And as a an attachment to that, even Omni/V5 trying once again way too hard. Another thing that the movie does constantly. As for the complete additions, I like for the 90% of it, because again, the addition that it does, it's not just a matter of just the small droplets of blood or dirt or the extended scenes. It's also how the characters look and the energy special effects. I did check again on that movie site that compares theatrical cuts and extended cuts, and yes, the way the things are rendered, including the characters' facial animations, is noticeable. It's actually amazing how Square managed in 1 year, around 1 year roughly, to work their way out, on this level. Still don't understand why they presented it at the movie festival of Venice, but whatever.
Hey, go big or go home.
A Teo question: what's worse to you, this movie being shown on the Venice festival, or Beyond Two Souls being shown at the Tribeca Film Festival?
What's it called? Breaking Dawn being shown at the Rome Film Festival.
Wait, hey, give it some credit to that. At the very least, this is a movie, whereas Beyond Two Souls is a video game, and yet it's being shown at a film festival for some reason.
But I think the voice acting. I have probably been way too harsh with Steve Burton over the years, but I kind of still mean it. He only managed to get his gig out only in recent times thanks to the CDNT, and sadly it was really a craze like Jason Greyface. It was too little too late at the point, because the recasting was approaching. And yeah, I do, like I said for the remake, I do prefer the new voice game remake. No shame in admitting that.
Oh no, Cody Christian's the best Cloud. That's not even in question.
As for everyone else, the only people that do stick out are Greg Ellis, Kate Sif, and even then, like I said, 3 lines in total or something. Quinton Flynn as Reno, and George Newborn and Sephiroth. And even then, you can hear that it still is the monotonous it works because only it's intentional for the character.
What about Steve Blum?
You know what also all these three voice actors have in common? They sound similar to their Japanese counterpart. Suspicious. But yeah, as far as also the script goes, there aren't too many differences. Like I said, there's that moment with Denzel where he says, again, son of a bitch in the dub, while in Japanese it's something completely different. In my country's sub, he says a third thing completely different.
Yeah.
So which is it, movie?
Hey Teo, you didn't mention about Steve Blum as Vincent.
No, I put it in the same category of the 3 that I mentioned.
Okay.
Speaking of Denzel, I as well conclude on him. As a new character for this movie, it's not a bad thing, and again, his OVA does help introducing it more organically, but he's just there, and sometimes he's just a prop how to get.
You know what's sad too? I literally forgot about Denzel when I was talking about the characters, because yeah, the story tries to prop him up as this important figure, but
the sad part is that the sad part is that if you watch his standalone OVA that's included with the Blu-ray of this, it works better if you watch that beforehand. But yeah, you should. It's a problem.
Oh, he has an OVA. Okay, you know what? I've known about this movie for some time, but I legit did not know about the OVA.
I'll mention this when we actually get to them, because we will do that in like one bulk, bit by bit. Around this time, Square did release a couple of a couple of shorts into the anime shorts, in order to capitalize essentially on the movie. One is about the Turks, one is about Denzel, and one is about his Lost Order, creation of the Nibelheim events with some Pino thing. And the first 2 actually do help. The one with the Turks has also to integrate also with the events of Before Crisis. But anyway, I think that's pretty much it. This movie has good things in it, but to me it's not enough to savage in the slightest. Sure, better than Spirits Within, and more enjoyable technically than Spirits Within, technically. But it's still not enough to me. Kingsglaive is a much better product to me, and I still have yet to see real, proper evidence of the contrary. Sorry. So that's pretty much it for us. See you for, I guess we will do eventually the OVAs.
Oh boy, the Last Order, everyone's favorite.
At least it's gonna be short and painless. Less I suppose.
Short, yes. Painless, we'll see.
We'll really see. See ya, folks.
See ya.
See ya.